What's cracking, everybody? My name is RedNeQ, spelled with a Q, not a CK. Traditionally born and raised in the South, but have done everything from gang banging to military service. So, yeah, my takes are pretty crazy. I am the oldest usually in these panels, but I'm not a boomer. I'm a Gen Xer. So fuck you if you think I am. And I will say shit that pisses you off. That's what I do. I am not politically correct. I don't give a fuck. Fuck you for whoever, whatever. But if you love me, I love you. If you hate me, I hate you. We're cool.
Wonderful. What an amazing love letter to the people we're going to be having a polite discussion with today. We're going to move over now to LoyalLogic.
I'm LoyalLogic. I first want to say that Dylan Burns is a piece of shit scumbag weasel. I don't know why he invited any of us on. We're all much better than him in every... No, I'm joking.
Wait, are you partnered, Loyal? Are you partnered? Oh, wait. Oops. Fuck. Okay. Anyway, next intro. TheSerfsTV. 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 You're next.
Go ahead. It's my first time here. I don't know if this is that. Like, are we joking? Do you want to skip over him? Or?
I don't know what you're talking about. Serfs, go.
Oh, okay, sweet. Yeah, hey, I'm the Serfs. I'm a dumpster fire on the internet. I'm democratic socialist on the streets, posadist and everything else. And yeah, just waiting for our dolphin overlords to come over and create orgies and all that good shit. So excited to do some high level ideas with a bunch of other individuals right now. It'll be good.
Got it. Wonderful. Happy to hear it. Hail Dolphin. We're throwing it over now to Melanie. Okay, we're throwing it over to Jangles.
Oh, hey everybody, I'm Jangles. I am of the perpetual camera stall. So I'm actually, I'm using ventriloquism. This is a live feed from my, camera right now. I'm a very soft boy. I'm scared of debates, and I'm very politically correct. So I'm just really scared coming out of this podcast that someone's going to hurt my feelings and say mean things about me. So I'm just asking that please be nice, please be courteous, and I might discuss some ideas in the future.
Happy to hear it. Everybody will, of course, be cordial to your feelings. We're now going to throw it over to CTV.
Hello, everybody. I'm Critically Thinking Veteran. I love doing these roundtables and talking about crazy ideas that are usually pretty far ahead of what anybody else in the room is thinking about. But that being said, that's how you know there's a transition. I love having these conversations. Everybody in this room, I look forward to a good, hearty, and healthy debate about the three subjects that glorious Dylan Burns has picked out for us to talk about tonight. Right? So if you're here to have a good show, I'm here to give it to you, so just be ready to take it.
Wonderful. Happy to hear it. Happy to use the correct title for my profession. Next, we're going to be throwing it over to Mel.
Hey, everyone. Hi. My name is Melanie. I basically just kind of hang out in the left sphere. I basically just talk about communism, and that's pretty much it. That's my whole spiel. I'm mainly concerned about pushing the Overton window left. So if you're center left, I want you to go a little left of that. If you're already left to center, let's keep on going. Let's keep the train on our way. I think there needs to be a mutual understanding in terms of talking about discourse. I think there's a lot of talking and a lot of mudslinging, but not like enough listening. Especially coming from someone who is like a marginalized human being. It's also like trans type remembrance. So hey, let's just like listen to each other, get along. And this isn't a call to civility politics. This is a call to, if you got some fucking opinions and you got hashed out, dude, you gotta talk about it like adults. That's really all I got going for me. I don't have like a Twitch stream. It's not something that I do. I'm gonna officially start doing it at some point, hopefully. But yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter for thirst traps and dumb bullshit about communism, it's chaosismel.twitter.com. Thank you, Dylan Burns, for having me on. Sorry I'm late. I had a technical difficulty and I couldn't get any of the Discord stuff to work. I don't know what was happening.
Oh, so communists with bad internet? What a surprise.
Dude, I know, dude. We don't have internet here, man.
Oh. Got him.
Yeah. Well, we're going to start going into the first topic, but first let's lay down some ground rules. The first ground rule is whenever I am talking, you shut up. If you don't, I'll mute you. Pretty basic system there. The only reason I'm talking isn't so, hey, here's my take on the topic and let me make it all biased or whatever. It is because I'm trying to moderate, trying to make it a polite discussion, trying to say, hey, you've interrupted this person enough times, let's give them some time to speak. So when I speak up, I just want to make it very clear, you are to close your mouth. If you don't, I will grill you. don't be surprised. I like, look, now that the election is over, I'm returned to my roots of just wanting to grill, okay? It's just a different type of grilling. Okay, next. Do not @ anybody else who is in this channel and right now talking to you on this panel show. In Twitch chat, if you want to argue with them here, or DM them on Discord. It just hypes up the conversation and is unproductive, and I want your eyes kind of solely focused on the show. Only I can scroll on Twitter while the show is going on. Next rule. Nothing TOS, that's pretty obvious. There are some words that are banned here, and the reason why, and I know it's so sad, but you know what? I don't like arguing about words being used. I like arguing about topics, and so there's certain words that have been used on the show, and instead of talking about the topics, we divert the whole thing to, why'd you call me this? Oh, why'd you call me that? Well, that's not very nice, Dylan. I don't care. I'm not here to moderate your niceness. You can be mean if you want to be mean, but I am not going to have people argue about words for the next 30 minutes. So I'm
the only one that can call Dylan scumbag.
Of course. So we're gonna start. We're talking about, and you know what? If you know what words I mean, so don't ask me to say them. Okay. Okay. We're talking about the C word. We're talking about the B word. Obviously, any slurs. And these words can only be used in the context of if you're quoting a politician or if it is integral to the conversation. I know it hurts your inner feelings to not be able to call somebody a slur in the middle of your statement. I know it hurts deep down inside somebody's bones somewhere, but you're going to have to make do for the next 3.5 hours, okay? Besides that, that's most of the rules, besides the fact that everybody will get a 1 minute, about a 1 minute intro and outro segment for each show, for each topic, and it is uninterrupted. If you interrupt people, that is also a mute. Does anybody have some confusion around any of these rules?
No, sir, Drill Sergeant.
Wonderful. Does anybody have any objections?
Just want to do a mic check real quick, because I know there's like an issue with echo.
Wonderful. You sound amazing. Can you talk
You sound
more?
perfect. Wonderful. Great.
Yes.
CounterPoints. Can you say something quick?
Yeah. How's that?
Very loud.
Still looking?
It's a lot of reverberation. It sounds like
a lot of gain.
Should I move it away? Move it closer?
Move it towards you.
Towards you.
Yeah.
Sure, further.
Towards you.
Hello.
There's no way that
I love your hair.
There's no way that mic you're touching is the one that's picking up the audio.
There's no way that mic's the one that's
not
on.
the mic.
That's not the mic. That mic ain't on.
It'd be a computer mic.
Yep, it's probably a computer mic.
All right, let me shift that.
Okay. If my editor is here, which he never is because he's always late, I'm going to have him maybe pull you into a separate room and mess with you around and try to see if you can get that working. If he doesn't arrive, then you're just going to have to figure out on yourself. I don't know why he's late, but it is what it is.
2 seconds.
Oh, wait,
There it
say
is.
something. There it is. There it is. Perfect.
Oh,
There you
much
go.
better.
There you go. Wonderful. So,
Okay, I'm going to say it again, though. Dylan, you have beautiful hair.
thank you very much. I already know. You don't need to tell me. Let's go into the first topic. So, there were some clashes in D.C. very recently. I was present to them, but I will do my best to be unbiased moderator here. There were protests there. There were some clashes there. Obviously, we've just had an election. How do you see these protests evolving during the next 4 years? Very open-ended question. You can take it in a lot of ways. I just thought that with the recent protests post-election, that it would make sense to have a topic about it. So we're going to start this time in the top right-hand corner with LoyalLogic.
Yeah, I mean, I want people to also understand this is nothing new. Now, that doesn't mean it's okay. It doesn't matter if it's the right or the left. What's happening in this country is unacceptable. I really liked what Melanie said, talking about, we need to start talking about it. Now, it's kind of hard when you have one side that says fraud, 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 and the other side, there's no fraud at all. Like, it's really hard to have a discussion. Not everybody's like us. I do unfortunately think it's going to get worse. And I've been saying this for probably the last 6 years. I mean, before Trump came along, it's only going to get worse because people are not willing to talk to each other. And now that sounds easy, but it really is. If people really on both sides said, okay, what do you have to say? What do you have to say? Came together, talked about it. And even if they walked away, not changing their mind, they can at least go, well, we talked to each other. But that's not going to happen. It's going to get much worse. And my fear, unfortunately, is that we're going to be seeing bombings. We're going to be seeing more death. But what can we do? There's nothing. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do other than keep promoting platforms like Dylan, people like us that are trying to have these discussions, no matter what our ideology is. I'm a Republican. I don't care if you're left, right, whatever. As long as you're nice to me, kind to me, and you're willing to hear me out, that's what matters to me more than your ideology. And I wish more people had that in mind when approaching somebody on the other side.
I agree that most problems can be solved by supporting my content. Okay, next we're gonna go over to RedNeQ.
So twofolds. If Joe Biden is not is sworn in, the riots are going to slow down for a short time. I think the left, the Democratic Party, has got a lot of problems right now because if the progressives are not, if their demands are not answered, i.e., because they feel they brought this election to its fruition, then you're going to have some infighting and you're going to have a lot of problems in the streets in those cities where we've always had problems. It's just going to be exacerbated. On the flip side, i.e., if Trump stays in office because of legalities and or overturnings, that will create even more of what we've already been seeing for the past 4.5 years. Either way, I think that this is a global / media driven issue, i.e., they love conflict. Why do we have wars? We haven't had wars for the past 40 years for nothing other than fucking content. It is no different than the bullshit you see on the streets in every country. Whenever you have the civilian population pushing back up against their government, it's media, and it's hype. We are overhyping everything. Everything's over sensationalized. So no matter what, nobody's going to be happy. It's going to be a shit show. And most of us conservatives, the reason why we've been so brazenly standing up and trying to say, look, we believe that everything needs to be done a certain way by law, i.e., is because if we don't even agree to a law, then we're going to have anarchy. And unfortunately, there's more of us than the anarchists. And that becomes a situation that none of us want.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to Mel.
Yeah, so I think it really depends on like where you sit politically. So I think there's something to note that I think is very interesting. We're noticing like a schism in like both parties, for example. So like we have the progressive like wing of the Democrats. So you have like your AOCs and your Ilhan Omars. You have, you know, Democratic Socialists and like people in the streets that are advocating for like Black Lives Matter. And then you have like establishment Democrats like Nancy Pelosi and John Kasich, who ultimately think that this wave of socialism is like breaking the Democratic Party and is the reason why. Like, if you look at the election results, most of the establishment Democrats lost to either progressive DSA like candidates or right wing like QAnon level Republicans. There's this really interesting thing that's even happening among the Republican Party. There are people that are adamantly Trump loyalists. I don't like necessarily calling them Trump loyalists, but they're loyal to the ideas that Trump is espousing. There is also people that are within his own party that want to be establishment Republicans. These are people that want to go back to like the Clinton or like the Reagan sort of like Bush era. Like they find Trump's positioning to be way more extreme than others. And so I think the protest and the reactions to protests really honestly are determined by what side of the aisle that you sit on. How those sides are going to come out and sort of do things in the streets or what they're going to advocate for just really depends day by day. I would like, I guess my personal opinion is I would like progressives to be out in the streets during Joe Biden. I'm very disappointed that a lot of people, like my favorite tweet that I saw was like, if they've replaced RBJ, we're gonna burn everything down. Well, that didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like these people, they want to do a lot of things, but they're not doing it, and I don't think they can. I think we're in this like weird sort of gray area where you just kind of have to pick a side, and the schism is really, really clear within the parties. So I just think I think they're just going to evolve into different factions. Like there's going to be a lot of splitting. So everyone's going to kind of pick a side within their own party or within their own group.
Okay.
I don't know like the result, but that's really all I got.
Okay. Next, we're going to throw it over to the Serfs.
So I think we live in a moment in time where you've got a huge swath of the electorate, and I'm talking about people who are either conservative or Republican, who are being told by the liberal elites or whatever that they're rednecks or they're racist and stuff like that, when really they're experiencing the same kind of alienation that everyone else is experiencing, mainly because you've got giant corporations that are outsourcing, they're leaving the country, they're going to other countries, they got no loyalty to America, they don't give a fuck. You got places like Detroit where they'll just up and leave. You got places where they're just going to replace workers with automation. So everyone is feeling the crunch, shall we speak. Everyone has got a shitty time. It's just shitty all around. Those people are being weaponized by individuals like Tucker Carlson and other people who are telling them that it's the globalists who are the problem, that it's the Jews who are the problem, stuff like that. Meanwhile, they don't really have an alternative. There's not someone else who's telling them on the other end of the aisle that, hey, by the way, this is actually what's happening. They're just being told, you got to get galvanized. You got to get weaponized. You got to listen to your Alex Joneses and everyone else who's telling you on a regular basis that now you got to be afraid and you got to hit the streets. So that's what you kind of saw with this DC protest. And at the same time, it's really sad to me because they should be reaching out to these kind of people and tell them, you know what, you're getting fucked over by the same system that's fucking everyone over. We should actually be united in this. We're all workers on the same team. But at the end of the day, they're causing us to get into these categories. And that's kind of what I see happening.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to CounterPoints.
Yeah, so I think the Biden victory is probably pretty solid at this point, and I think what's going to happen is you're going to see more DC protests, Million MAGA March, stolen election march, all that kind of thing, probably for the first month or two. Even up until Election Day, you're probably going to see that, and a few more people are going to get stabbed or run over or shot. But after the election, it's probably going to die because not a lot of conservatives, not a lot of Republicans have a big stomach for rioting and destroying stuff. We care, like I say we, but a lot of conservatives care more about process than they care about, result, I guess. And also a lot, I guess you could go, if you wanted a lefty perspective on this, privileged people care more about process than they do result because result doesn't really affect them personally. So I think you might have some riots from the right up until Election Day, but after that, it's really going to dissipate. What I'm concerned with is a failure to capitalize from the liberals or the lefties. So basically, Black Lives Matter was obviously huge over the summer. We had a whole bunch of very high profile, shootings and in custody deaths for law enforcement. If Joe Biden and his administration don't focus on law enforcement reform, I think that there's a really high chance of actual, progressive Black Lives Matter protests and riots still occurring under his administration. But hopefully that gives them the political momentum. So what I would see a Biden failure as a failure to capitalize on the political momentum of the day to pass law enforcement reform. And basically, there's literally one Republican. So I think Democrats control the House. I think they have the presidency. There's one Republican in the Senate that you have to win, and it's Rand Paul, who in the wake of the Breonna Taylor shooting actually introduced legislation to end no-knock raids. So if you can't win one Republican to your side, then you're really fucking up super hard.
Okay, next I'm going to be throwing it over to CTV.
Well, I guess the thing that's been concerning me with all of this is that we've had such a buildup of the divisiveness between the two parties. LoyalLogic kind of pointed out to where it's like everybody's screaming over here there's fraud and everybody over here screaming there's no fraud, right? So the thing that I've been saying the most throughout, at least in the last few weeks while we've all been kind of dealing with this election thing, is the process is not over and let's not freak out because nobody knows what's about to happen in the next few weeks to really kind of take us to like what next year is even going to look like. Because I know all of us are sitting here depressed from 2020 going, this year has fucking sucked. I'd like for this shit to get over, whatever the fuck it's going to be. So there's a whole lot of frustration on everybody's side that's going to have to get worked out. So a lot of these people are taking the streets behind what they feel like is their message. But then I think there's the conversation that I saw Dylan having the other day with how your dress could be how you're viewed, right? And you could be representing an idea and not even know it. So at this point, it's all getting pretty fucking confusing. And if we don't try to stick to the process and understand that process, and us, the people, try to control that process, it's going to end up like being a real shit show. And I really feel like that having these conversations on this platform is probably a great thing to get people engaged.
Wonderful. I'm going to throw this over to Joe Lewis.
Yeah, so effective change and demonstrations is a multi-generational process, right? So the right has simpler and more effective rhetoric with better leadership, but they're decentralized, lack political power on the ground, and are poorly mobilized. The left have soldiers with political power and incredible mobilization, but they lack leadership and strong rhetoric. There's no real signs for me that's going to change in 4 years. But the right's overt and documentable criminality make an easy target for critique, while the left can deflect blame, but a lack of leadership allows criminality just to be rhetorically connected as part of a larger movement without any consequence for the right, even if those claims are baseless. And getting to like ideologies, right? Both radical versions of the ideologies, whether it be the Boogaloo Boys all the way over to Antifa, they have the exact same problem. They lack hierarchy and central organization, so any calls for things like terrorist designation are baseless. Not to mention, it's shown that even designation of that has no effect of curbing extremism. That's all I got.
Okay, and I think we're gonna wrap this up with Jangles. I don't think I've gone to you yet.
Nope. Saving the worst for last. Excellent. All right, so part of these conversations, the only way a conversation, and when I say conversation, I can be more broadly like the national conversation, as cringy as it is to say that, they can only be effective if we operate on a shared reality. And something that really, really worries me is that whatever the atomization of where we get our information and the propensity towards like seeking out things that already confirm what you believe and instantly believing like the slightest story that vaguely hints at something that you want to be true, that was already a thing. And then like the like isolation and like helplessness of COVID and the quarantines that resulted in trying to, keep people alive made it a lot worse. And so I've never seen, now granted, I might not have been looking for it, but I've never seen this explosion of like people just in denial of reality. Just this, we have close to millions and millions of people just saying that no, the election map is wrong. No, everybody's cheating, and there's no proof whatsoever to back it up. But it feels good, and they're willing to believe it. So I think going forward, what I hope happens is that like that fire burns itself out, and people realize that actually like. We were promised all these things. We were promised a Kraken, I think, at some point. I heard a Kraken mentioned, and when they don't see that there's not a Kraken, I hope most of them will kind of like just sink back into things. But I don't know. So I have no idea where things are going to go, which is why you saved the worst for last. So excellent.
Got it. Okay, we're going to now open it up to the floor. If you'd like to talk to anybody else who has made a comment on this, or you disagree with something somebody says, you want to challenge it or support something somebody said, you may engage.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, listen, I said the day after the election as a Republican, Joe Biden won. But this is what I said too, is that we need to let the process play out. When I keep saying, you have one side saying fraud, the other side saying there's no fraud, they're both wrong, because there is isolated fraud. That happens in every election. It's very weird that people act like fraud doesn't it happens in every election we've had. Isolated fraud happens. We know it happens. Now the question always is how widespread it is. That's why we have a process. So I mean, this is the big problem I have with the left is when you have, oh no, there's no fraud. It's like, wait, you understand there is, it's isolated. How big is it? That's why we have a process.
Do you think when Donald Trump is putting out like there's fraud, or when all these Republican leaders are pointing out fraud, what they actually mean is, well, there are probably some isolated incidents.
No, I'm not talking. No, but my point is I didn't get to finish. Is that's why you do have people that aren't listening, because I'm trying to be reasonable. Say, listen, Joe Biden won. Let's let the process play out. I don't see the evidence to massive fraud. I'm saying that.
Wouldn't you
but
argue
when you're
that's
saying there's
out?
no fraud, you're going to have people that aren't like us, that aren't politically
right.
in
So
tune.
that's kind of what happened, right? So Donald Trump was allowed to run his lawsuits, and then one after one, they've been thrown out by all the lower level courts.
No, that's negative.
Well,
negative.
Okay, but,
those not Trump lawsuits.
Okay,
Quit calling them Trump lawsuits.
Well, sure.
Okay, whatever. They're Giuliani's lawsuits.
Wait.
Let's
wait. Okay. There's a lot. Okay, I can only hear one person talk at once. We've already started. We've already started going down the hill. Okay. And now my camera shut off.
Lance, you were addressing me. Go ahead.
Lance. Yeah. I wanted to finish.
Sure. I was going to say the whole system is kind of playing out the way it's supposed to, right? So we've got Giuliani's lawsuits, which are playing out, each one getting thrown out one after the other by the lower level courts.
Not just his, though. Not just his. There's other lawsuits.
And so on top of that, we've also got these states which are allowed to, like in the case of Georgia and the other states, they're going to basically solidify the results. So everything is playing out out as it should. So step by step, it's coming to fruition that yes,
exactly,
Biden won, and we're getting to it. So I don't see where the complaint comes in. It's pretty much exactly.
No, I'm saying the complaint comes in. The complaint comes in because everybody's bitching about the process. Everybody's bitching about the process.
Red,
well, I think people are bitching about the transition.
Lance, the complaint is when you have the left, and I've heard it. I've even seen people in chat. There's no fraud. That's a lie. There's always fraud every election. The question is how big it. That's my point about it, is that we need to be intellectually honest and say, yes, there was fraud. How big is it where you have a process? I agree with you, man. The process is playing out. I agree with you. The process is playing out.
Hang on. I'm not going to play too fucking centered with this. Look, in 2019, Elizabeth fucking Warren even bitched about this shit. Okay? Give me y'all's fucking bullshit. I just want to know if he won fair and square. Don't you want to fucking know? So that way we all can shut the fuck up and quit bitching, and we won't have civil war. We won't have an outbreak.
We've known for a while. This is more just like we're waiting for you to catch up. That's kind of what this is.
I kind of
you're waiting for us to for me to catch up when they have documented
for everyone else, like the
right. No, well, Lance, I have to say no. I'm sorry. There is over 200 affidavit. There's 200 affidavits that are still sealed, and no one's read. So I have to. I have to push back on that. We all know. We don't know what's in affidavit.
Listen. Look, if everybody is going to look at RedNeQ and say, "RedNeQ, you're behind. Why don't we do the kind thing, right, and catch him up, and then we can continue the conversation."
Well, there's one thing that I wanted to bring up. Like, there's also those 3 lawsuits about the hush money that he paid off to, those porn stars or like whatever women like that. Those are still pending. Like, you can go look those up.
And we have a bunch of laptops.
RedNeQ.
Look, the point is like, look, if it's not the fucking like, what is it, 29 or 37? I can't remember how many. If it's not the roughly 30 like cases that were thrown out by almost the judges looked at that shit and they laughed at it, and he still has cases from his business ventures that are still pending.
That is his right.
So okay,
what the fuck is your problem with the legal system?
So if his
communists don't like liberty, do you?
So if his fucking voter fraud shit gets thrown out and he gets taken for
it gets thrown out, but why are you bitching until it gets to that point?
I'm not bitching about it. I'm saying
let the man have his time. Y'all bitches kept y'all have been crying for 2.5 years.
You've said my banned word like 5 times now.
Look, everybody in the room, when Dylan is speaking, shut the fuck up.
Okay. So I'm going to refer to point 1 again, and from now on, it's no longer going to be I'm nice, I'm smiling, I'm laughing. It's going to be you're just muted, and you're going to realize halfway through it, you've been muted, okay? That's what you're going to realize from now on. You're going to be talking, be like, why is nobody listening to me? I'm such a smart guy, and you're going to be muted. That's what's going to happen from now on, okay? So I'm taking the reins here. I'm pulling back, okay? I've got you all by the hair. I got the long hair. RedNeQ, I know you've got no hair. I'll grab you by the beard, okay? I don't care. You all... We're getting in line now, okay? Everybody get in single file line. We're going to do this nice and orderly. Okay. So, Melanie's going to finish their point. And I'm going to get out the famous list.
Noticed Obama.
I'm going to get out the famous list, and I'm going to start writing names down. Melanie's going to finish their point. Then it's going to be RedNeQ, you wanted to respond.
Yes.
I will allow you time to respond, and then I shall write down people's names. If they raise their hand, then I'll try to direct conversation over to you. You can, of course, still talk, but I mean, I'll just generally remember that at some point you want to talk. So I see 2 people raising their hands. CounterPoints and former. If you want me to write your name down. Okay, everybody listen. I have one question. Everybody listen to me.
I have a question.
Okay,
a quick question.
But it'd be a great question. What's the question?
Yeah, is it TOS for us to do copium on stream? Is that a thing? I don't want you to get more trouble.
No copium. Cocaine is a little too hard though, so be careful on that.
Right.
Okay.
Can we at least reset this and I just cheers to everybody?
Sure, cheers. We're all happy. We're all best friends. Kumbaya. Okay, Melanie, please continue. I'll write your names down. CounterPoints to former President Barack Obama.
How are you doing that?
So the only point I was trying to bring up, like, if Trump doesn't get caught for these lawsuits, or if his team doesn't have issues with this one, who knows about the next one and the next one and the next one? How much proof do you people need? How many bankruptcies? How many lawsuits? How many things that stacks up against this person is it going to convince you that he's been just fucking around the system. And yeah, Hunter Biden, not really a great look, not really a great person, but you know what? He has had way less impact on the political establishment. Dude, he's just a dude with a drug problem. He needs fucking help. Trump actually is on this derangement syndrome shit. He's actually killing people. Americans have fucking died over this man, and it's not fucking worth it. Also, sick fucking hat hom about communism, you weirdo. Like, come on, dude. That's that fucking low blow shit. If you're gonna make communism jokes, I want some good ones, not the fucking freedom shit. Come on, dude. I thought you were better than that. I want better shit. Come on, roast me.
Are you
Bring
done?
it on. Bring it on. Let's go.
Yep, Redneck,
Hey,
you're next.
so first off, you talking shit about saying it's just a Hunter Biden thing with your fucking commie flag in the background when we know point blank that Joe Biden is mentioned in emails on that fucking laptop, receiving money from China and from Ukraine and from fucking other countries. And you're going to go, it's just, these are low blow jokes. Okay, you want communism in this country where we have every fucking freedom that communists don't have. Take your bullshit back to communistic China if that's where you want to live, or communistic Venezuela if that's where you want to live. But it's America.
Redneck, I'm not.
And as a
I'm not
redneck,
Chinese, dude. Come on now, don't be racist.
I didn't say. I said communistic China or communistic Venezuela. You take your pick. If you would fucking listen,
Now it's not
expect
racist.
the
The
name
racism
redneck
has been
to be
eliminated
racist.
by
You have the right ideas.
What other country do you want me to go? Can I go to Sweden? Do you think Sweden is socialism too? Can I go there?
Okay.
No, they don't. Communism is different.
Okay, they're both muted. Redneck, I'd like you to finish your point. You're unmuted.
The communistic flag that you're flying is strictly used in China currently. I don't see it used in any other country. So if it is, let me fucking know.
And what year and what symbol is on it? Because it's not Chinese there, buddy.
So here's the other thing. I'll go ahead and finish. Is anybody that's anybody that's
okay,
this isn't Chinese there, buddy. Why do you keep saying China? Are you scared of the China virus now too?
Come on,
man?
guys, get back on point for Christ's sake.
Dude, he started it. He started the ad hom.
I'm trying to reply, but you know,
Leon, I'm sorry. All right. Okay. Look, I'll stop for Leon. Hey. I'll stop for Leon.
Okay, we're going down the list. Next is counterpoints. We're going.
I didn't even get to fucking respond.
Give me what, Redneck. I'll come back to you after counterpoints. I'm just giving a stop in this momentum because it's just yelling back and forth, and when I come back, if anybody interrupts Redneck, I'm going to mute them, and that's just going to be it. Counterpoints, make your point, then we'll go to Redneck right back after, okay?
Okay. So I was actually beautifully heartened by the beginning of this conversation, and I think it got derailed pretty fucking fast. So the whole point that Loyal was saying was basically like, in order for us to avoid civil conflict, we need to be able to have conversations. And within like the first 45 seconds, we basically started calling people, you know, commie scum and basically dumbass rednecks who don't understand like voting process and all that kind of shit. Let's try, okay? Like, let's try to make it past 5 minutes. And by the way, I was expecting more of a shit show from the left. Like, Melanie is literally, I mean, she's flying the flag, but she was super nice until you called her commie scum. And then the Serfs, too, he basically makes a living laughing at fucking conservatives, you know, YouTube cringe videos. So they were actually incredibly polite for the first, like, 5 minutes. So let's try to get back there. So my point being that, Loyal, I appreciate your perspective, but the question is like not whether or not there's like individual things of fraud. The question is whether or not they're going to be material. So if you have if you have 300 examples of fraud in Georgia or some shit like that, but it's not going to change the vote, then it's not going to matter. And
no. My point was that they're
counter air out of the room. Like you're like napalm. You're beautiful, but you're like napalm.
All good.
So my point being that like we're gonna know the results by December 18th because the election results are going to be certified. There's probably going to be a MAGA backlash for probably a month or two because the subject of this debate is what kind of violence are we going to see over the next 4 years, and then it's going to be up to Biden to capitalize on the political momentum of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I think we should rather than talking about whether or not Mel's commie scum or redneck doesn't understand like election shit, I think we should talk specifically about like what is going to be the average person's reaction? What's going to be the violence in the streets? What are the protests going to look like? What is the violence going to look like? And with that, I'll stop talking.
Okay.
No, my only point, I just want to say my only point is that the left is denying any fraud takes place. That's my whole point with the statement.
Okay, we're going back to Redneck. You may finish the point you tried to make earlier. Let's all remember, this is a new fresh start. We're all friends. You're all coming over to my partner party afterwards or something. I don't know. Okay. Redneck, it's back to you.
Sounds hot.
What I was trying to say, it's amazing to me that everyone is telling Trump that he's supposed to concede and that he's supposed to do this, he's supposed to do that, when he is following every legal right he has. He doesn't have to concede. He doesn't even ever have to concede. And when the left stands here and tells people on the right that we're fucking idiots and we don't understand how things work, we're sitting here kind of going, well, wait a second. There's actually legal proceedings. Yes, he's got court cases. Yes, he's got some that he's attached himself to, some that he's withdrawn himself from. Until the Electoral College certifies and then swears Joe Biden's, until he raises his hand, legal remedies all the way up through the Supreme Courts and things that don't even involve, i.e., what you think the Electoral College is. There's things like the 12th Amendment. There's things that can be handled in Congress that people don't want to talk about. There's a lot of things that us rednecks are stupid. Us average Americans, we just want to know this. Are the votes legit, whether they're for Joe Biden or Donald Trump? I want to know. I'm tired of everybody saying, oh, we always have a little bit of corruption, or we always have a little bit of fraud, but it's isolated. When you isolate it in every fucking state, and if it's isolated even one or two in every county, there's over 2,000 counties. And when you have a vote that's separated by less than a fucking a percent, that kind of shit matters. And I'm tired of people just blowing it away. I didn't like it for Hillary. I didn't like it for Bush. I didn't like it during Bush Gore. I mean, she was suing Trump, even though she had conceded. There were still lawsuits going on for 3 weeks. So y'all are just, I'm very frustrated that you guys are sitting there going, there's no fraud. Shut the fuck up, get the loss and move on. Y'all are being dumb. And all I'm saying is, until the day Joe Biden raises his hand and they swear him in, he's not my president until that day. And that's how that's
Give me a
it.
second, I'm just figuring
Okay,
out
so next was actually former President Barack Obama, but he's not in the room, so it'll be Mel.
He's
Wait,
here.
what?
Where's Obama?
Where's Obama?
That's
I'm
Joe
right
Lewis.
here.
Oh, you're Obama?
Yeah, coming in as a stand-in. He
Oh.
had stuff to do.
Okay, well, then you can take his place.
All right. A few things, right? I agree with Redneck that the margins are very important, right? But then I think the conversation could definitely shift with this idea that if we're in a two-party winner-takes-all system, why are we even giving credence to things like the Libertarian Party? What's the only thing they've shown historically is fuck up swing states. With that also being said, I kind of want to amend this idea that there's going to be this sort of like mass protest or mass whatever type of political violence after results. Look, we have multiple examples of this historically. Look no further than France. France had a much more overt white supremacist within their running with Emmanuel Macron and Le Pen. And what happened? Macron won and Le Pen did a nice transition of power. There was limited riots and no deaths. And even when you think about it within America, right? We're in this biggest time where people think there's all this violence going on. 95% of the 12,607 demonstrations in between May 24th to September 19th, 2020 were peaceful. Of that, 12 people were killed, 9 of which were police. And even according to the data, the deaths outside of the police were caused by cops. So that seems like a pretty...
But Joe, I mean, once you say that it's not, I agree with you. Obviously, majority is peaceful. But that's not what people are worried about. People are worried about that 1 in 20. I mean, that's where the Timothy McVeighs and things could happen.
Yes,
That's why
yes.
my point was at the beginning is that I'm afraid that's where it's heading. Where, yeah, I agree with you. Most of it's peaceful. But I'm talking to Joe really quick, Red. But I agree with you. But nobody's really worried about the majority of them. People are worried about it continuing unchecked and no one saying, hey, we need to pull back a little bit. We need to come together.
Again, I agree with you, Loyal, but here's the very key important thing is that fear is not an outcome. And what you see, and this is how the news portrays this, because look, like every media source is responsible for this from your Breitbarts all the way over to your Voxes and everyone in the middle there that have like more responsible reporting is that the media are the agitators to this problem. But what we have to do is always be skeptical of that thing. What we see in practice is that, and this is why Donald Trump is dangerous, is that he does not have any type of desire of having the process lay out and then respectfully shutting the fuck up. Because again, his rhetoric is designed to not. This is the last thing, and then I'm done.
Yeah,
his rhetoric is not designed to persuade. That's the most important thing that you want to remember. His rhetoric is designed to embolden individuals to his own benefit, but these individuals are not emboldened to be persuaded. And again, like we can go down that hole. I have a bunch of examples, but that's the thing that really concerns
but I would
me.
say, but I would say though is that listen, I mean, you're not going to get me to say, oh, the Trump won. Like I'm not one of those Republicans, but my point is with Trump is that people that are looking to Trump, they're not serious about politics. Like if you go on my Twitter feed, you're not seeing me retweet Trump. Those type of people are going to be in and out of the political system. Once Trump's gone, I don't think we'll see him again until another populist comes around. I'm not really worried. Again, I'm not worried about those people because those people, like Point said, they'll go home. They don't have a thrill to protest. I'm worried about the Timothy McVeighs, but I agree with you. The media is probably the biggest pusher of the propaganda that all protest, the violence. So I agree with you, Joe. I think you have some good points.
Well, the big thing too,
Joe, you finish this up, and then we're gonna go back down the list.
Here's the thing that's being pushed is that Trump's rhetoric is rhetoric based on compliance to whatever idea he puts out there. So as long as he keeps perpetuating the idea that there is levels of widespread voter fraud, because that's the key, widespread.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always going to continue within the Trump base. So, and the thing is that they understand that that's a thing.
States, Joe, there's multiple states that got problems reported, like actual legal reported things across multiple states.
Absolutely, Red. But here's the thing. In New Jersey, since 2002, we've had 16 cases of voter fraud. And the majority of the cases were vote duplication or the xeroxing of ballots.
Just so far, one lady in Texas. Hang on, one lady in Texas so far for 2020 election. A lady in Texas on 134 counts. Two guys on 8,000 ballots out of California. I mean, look, if you want to sit here and minuscule this and say this is only one or two here and there, but that's just two officially.
I don't think that's what
I'm not trying to minuscule that. The big question
and when we're talking about okay, go ahead.
The big question is, at what point is it actually a statistic that we should be worried about?
Exactly.
If I go out there and commit
one.
That's not.
It happens every year, Red. No.
Like, let's put it this way. Right.
So wait,
I can frame it a different way to help you.
The president of the United States to have 100% validated vote.
It won't happen.
Here's the stat.
Here's Jangles.
Whoa.
I actually have to. Right now. I'm gonna break off. So next was Mel. But I'm gonna ask Mel. To be fair, Jangles seems very excited to comment on this particular one. Do you want to comment, or do you want to give it to Jangles?
He's been edging for a long time. Give him full release.
My comment was really just to Connor. So Jangles, take it away.
Jangles.
Thank you, Mel. I appreciate it. I absolutely loved and am terrified by RedNeQ's response. So, how you describe what Trump is doing? He's just taking the legal precedent. He doesn't have. So when you say like Trump doesn't have to concede, he doesn't have to do all that stuff. Well, I can point to two people who would very much disagree with you. One is President Trump in 2016, who the night after it was called, the same way it's been called this time, Hillary conceded, Trump declared victory, didn't wait for the Electoral College because that's not something we do in modern day. There's another person who I think you should be really interested in who didn't follow the process, who called it early, and that's Donald Trump again in 2020, the day after the election, Wednesday, it was like Tuesday night or Wednesday morning or something like that. He called the election. He said he won. And then he declared that if he didn't win, it was fraud. Now, what I want you to understand is that if we're having conversations, all right, and you make a positive claim, so you say something exists, something that happens, and my stance is negative, you make the positive claim, and then I say, no, that's not true. I'm done. I win until you prove that. You don't get to say there is fraud. So let's find it.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
you don't
get to say that. Hold on, no.
Yes,
buddy,
I
I'm
do,
not done.
because
I ain't done, buddy.
America,
I ain't done. Come on,
America.
I'm drinking my beer and I'm excited.
Until proven guilty, right?
I'm drinking my beer and I'm excited. Let's do it. So when he didn't do that though. Don't pretend that he's following the process. We're just really
he's made the accusation. He has made the accusation.
No, he's made a positive claim. He said there is fraud based on what? He doesn't get to say there is fraud. Definitely. oh fuck, I guess we got to prove him wrong now. That's not how that works. He has to find evidence that there is fraud. There's been none. And now when I say LoyalLogic, when I say that there's no fraud, I want to tell you, I'm saying that how everybody in this, I'm telling you, everybody on the left and everybody with 2 brain cells to rub together says it, as in it's not fraud in the way he's saying it. He's not, when he says fraud, he's not saying, oh, there's probably a few isolated incidents like in every election. And so when we say there's not fraud, we're responding to that. So
no, but
that's a really dishonest kind of
brain cells. Okay, so there's 2 people trying to talk, LoyalLogic and RedNeQ. That was directed towards RedNeQ. So RedNeQ, he gets primary responses directed towards him. It's only fair. RedNeQ.
So when you want to talk about the 2 brain cells, you're talking about a majority of like 74 fucking million Americans. All right. So keep up with this bullshit, because that's exactly what's caused where we're at today. For 4.5 years, we listened to every conspiracy theory and lies and bullshit about Trump and Russia. And
I
now
actually agree, but not the way you think.
And now you want us to sit here and go, oh, we've already found for a fucking fact, that there is illegalities that have happened in multiple states, statistically and factually, and there's affidavits signed.
People voting. Hugo Chavez voted as well. I saw that.
Oh, there's 200 affidavits and no one knows what's in them. He's making a valid point.
Okay, let's wait for
No, he isn't. You can't vaguely gesture to something you find weird, and that's proof of voter fraud.
Okay.
No one knows what the
Okay, God, I'm gonna fire my editor for not being here. Okay, RedNeQ, please finish your point.
God damn it, dude. It's like, y'all, you want to say we're the crazy ones? You want to say we're the triggered ones? When all we're asking you to do is something that you should want to do for yourself, because then you could point it in our face and say, we told you fucking Joe Biden won. We told you he out fucking performed Trump and Obama and every other fucking president to this day. But you know what? You're fucking scared. You're scared because the corruption has always happened in Democratic areas. And it's fucking over.
Things happen where people are.
Okay. We're gonna go return to the list.
That's it.
We're gonna return to the list. Mel was next on the list, and after that it's gonna be the Serfs. So it's gonna be Mel.
Sorry, I guess I'll just address Connor's point. I want to, but RedNeQ keeps saying things and words and meanings. So like I can't. It's hard for me,
Just address me really quick.
Okay, so I think Connor said something really important, that we are going to see large amounts of spastic terror throughout the United States. It could be the left. It could be the right. It could be the Joker just memeing in the streets. We don't know. And I think everyone on the political spectrum needs to be able to confront the idea that terrorism is a real and functional thing in American society. It doesn't just happen in Iraq or Iran or Israel or any other country. It's been happening here, and it's going to be a long thing that we're going to have to confront.
It's been happening for a long time. Sorry to interrupt you. A long time it's been happening.
Right, but there's a different kind of terror that's been happening, and I want to say it's white supremacist, fascist based. It's not just random actors that are upset. It's people that are virulently upset at the system, and the way to mitigate those kinds of things is to meet the material needs of the people. So if you have a bunch of people that are angry and they're converting to violence, you have to ask them, well, why are you going to violence? What has convinced you in your worldview to do that? And a lot of these people, they might be uneducated, they might be poor, they might not have access to the same things that the rich white city liberals get. So what if we, allocate resources to those communities and talk to them and help them? That would be a possible solution. Now to address RedNeQ, okay, I don't. To what end is something a conspiracy theory? I mean, I remember hearing a report about people that think that Venezuela. Now, I mean, we can talk about communism if you want some more, buddy, because you love doing it. But so Venezuela's going through political turmoil right now. Do you think they're really manipulating voting machines? Because there are people from Cuba.
So do you deny that the company is Dominion? Do you deny software is called Smartmatic? Do you deny that they are partially owned and funded by the Clinton Foundation?
What did that have to do with anything
I'm asking you
that I
the
said?
same questions. Do you deny any of these facts? Do you deny that we know for a fact Dominion software, Dominion hardware, Smartmatic software?
I don't understand.
All the point he's saying is that if you look into Dominion, they've had issues. That's all he's trying to say.
I'm very well aware of this, but that's
what
not
do you mean,
what
no?
I'm.
Okay.
But that's
what do you mean? No?
But
okay, wait. Okay,
I need this.
Can you need this? Mel, do you want to give this over to Counter, or do you want to keep it?
I mean, I didn't even get what I
Okay,
was
well,
saying.
then you
because
can
he's
finish
he's assuming my position like he's been doing the entire time. All I'm saying is just like the entire story behind Dominion and the machines and Venezuela. Like it's almost too like James Bond villainy. It's almost too cartoonish to be true.
I know. I'm with
now there is some truth to the machines having issues with certain companies and ownership. Like that has been something that is verified. So I'm not gonna I agree. But the thing is the thing that I have an issue with is that they will take a thinly veiled truth and they will stretch it to its end. So let's go back. Let's go back to voter fraud. Okay.
No. Wait. But okay, it was Mel's turn to speak. Mel, I will ask you to try to like get to it because
I'm trying.
Are waiting. Okay.
Yeah, I know. So look at the voter fraud issue. So we have this thing with voter fraud that everyone said, like, Leon said that before. He basically was just like, hey, look, we should count votes, but it always happens. And then there are some people that think every vote should be counted. So by that logic, eventually, every single election can be contested. At what point does it become a free and fair election if we're constantly, if all it takes is one person to basically say, oh, this election is unfair, then it just ends up in courts. And whoever's political party has the most amount of power within the judicial system can, through some ways, determine how elections may swing. That's extremely fucking problematic. That was the only thing I'm trying to get at. So they take these thinly veiled conspiracy theories, stretch them with the current things that are already happening within a broken fucking system, and they just keep cycling these things again, and it builds people and pushes them against
so
each other.
RedNeQ, you try to make the response very brief because there's people who've been waiting for a very long period of time.
Yes, sir. So, point one, you acknowledge now Dominion, Smartmatic. Let's just say all of this was owned by Trump and Biden had lost. Do you really think that you would be accepting the results and not asking for a recount? You would just blindly go, his family, Ivanka, or any of those, they all, I mean, like this connection, he pumped these things up.
I would be skeptical as well. I would be skeptical with a Biden victory.
Okay. Okay. So when you have 70 million plus people, and when you have sworn affidavits in multiple states, and when you have the legal process people, i.e. the people trained by the state to watch the process, all identify things that are irregular, more so than we ever have, like more so, because there was so much scrutiny on this election. I'm saying, as a person who voted for Trump, that if I was a Joe Biden supporter, I would want to be able to slam dunk and say, fuck it. Yes, let's audit it all. Let's fix this broken fucking system, which Trump is saying. Y'all haven't heard him, but he's actually said, I am doing this because I don't want any other votes from this point forward.
Shit. Don't fucking lie. Don't fucking lie, dude. Also, he said it was fraud. He said it was stolen from him. That's what he did. Why are you lying? I thought you were all about the truth. I thought you wanted to represent things accurately. Why do you have to lie? Tell me what he said. He said there was fraud because he's a sore fucking loser, just like every other coping MAGA idiot out there. That's what they're doing.
So many other say that again. Say those words again. Just like every other what?
MAGA idiot.
Okay, so there's a personal attack. So when I come back with personal attacks on those, then don't get me
all you want, dude. I got it.
No, I'm just saying. I get trouble.
You were sensitive. What the fuck?
So I mean, it's fine.
I'm not sensitive. I could give a fuck. You can call me a bitch or a bastard or a cunt or a twat.
Can we stay on fucking
RedNeQ, please don't say every single band word at once.
Single term.
That was like all of them.
George,
Okay.
Open the door.
Cut. Okay, I'm returning to the list. Okay, this has gotten too off the rails. I have to return to the list. RedNeQ, you seem outraged, but you've also talked.
I'm not outraged.
You also
I'm trying to respond, and every time I respond, I get interrupted, and no one gets fucking called on.
Well, RedNeQ, you have also interrupted other people on plenty of occasions as well.
Yes, sir, I have.
Yes, and you have. If I'm looking at the timestamps, I'm also positive that you have gotten to talk for a plurality of the time, not a majority, but a plurality of the time. So I do want to move down this line to the Serfs, who is next in line.
Oh, thank you. All right, so I'm just going to try and rattle off a few things a little rapid fire here. Number one, Timothy McVeigh was a far-right nationalist who read the Turner Diaries. That's one of the reasons he committed the crimes he did. He should be labeled as a terrorist. There's nothing more to that. Number two, Hugo Chavez has been dead since 2013. He is unable to affect voting or voting systems because he is a ghost, so ghosts can't do that. That's just the way the world works. And then number three, there has been a reported 0.000000006% of voter fraud tabulation that turned out to be fake. So on the whole, this is a nothing burger that we're blowing out of proportion, and I just wanted that to be on the record.
Okay, next was Counter.
Yeah, so basically I have a few things and I'll try to get through them very briefly. I'm actually going to address the Dominion versus Smartmatic thing first, and then I kind of want to end on a different point, okay? So Dominion and Smartmatic are not the same company. They're not owned by the same people. According to both of those companies, they've released public statements saying that they are not the same fucking company. Smartmatic is owned by two Venezuelan people who I have no fucking idea. I have no idea whether or not they're capitalists or whether or not they're communists. I have no idea whether or not they're Chavez sympathizers. I have no idea. And on top of that, that's just a random news post. So I haven't even corroborated that information. But a large amount of Venezuelans who have moved to the United States are actually incredibly pro-capitalist. So I don't know why them being Venezuelan specifically would necessarily say that they were cheating. Now, that being said, Dominion has donated machines to the Clinton Foundation as a part of a pro-democracy initiative, but that doesn't necessarily indicate corruption. That just indicates the fact that they were like trying to be like a global partner and get their name out there and all that kind of bullshit. It could be a conspiracy. It could be, but not necessarily. So just throwing these names together and saying it's...
Or you broke up at the end of it, but we got the majority of the point. You're breaking up.
You're breaking
up. We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you.
Specifically in that. Hold on, I'm almost done.
But we couldn't hear you.
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me at all?
Yeah, you were just broke up for 20 seconds.
Fuck.
So, but we heard most of it, and we got the gist of it. You said you got all the way to James Bond.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Yes, finish it, please, quick, so we can get back to the list.
Okay. So basically, like, you say let the process play out, but to me that kind of rings like bullshit because like Trump doesn't play in truth. He doesn't say system. He doesn't say let it play out. He basically says whatever he thinks he can fucking get away with, and then he fucking tries to get away with it. And he's severely damaged our discourse, which is evident in this conversation right now.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. Anybody? We have two names on here who have gotten to talk before. Anybody want to comment on that particular thing? Anybody? You, Joe? You are next. So
I'm on the list. Gotcha. All right. So like, here's the thing, and this is why, like, again, I feel for you, Red, and I'm gonna tread carefully in how I talk about this right now, and that is like the goal of any president is to set a national agenda and then frame it to how we understand reality. And unfortunately, Trump's rhetoric is really gotten to you. Like the idea of like ad populum is like I can hear it in your speech, which is the idea of like appealing to wisdom of the crowd and then using the popularity as a measure. So like the popularity of whatever the narrative is what's going to fuel everything. And that's the thing. Like, and then there's also just this like there's like parallipsis going on. So it's like I'm not saying this, I'm actually saying this. And my concern here is there's two things. The first thing is, at what point are we going to accept that within Trump's base of supporters that his rhetoric worked, and how are we going to break right wingers out of that? And the second thing
what the fuck? I mean,
and the second thing is, and then I'll give you all the time in the world, friend.
Holy shit!
And it's not just you. It's
Joe. That's fucking so belittling. That is so belittling.
Okay, right, okay. Red, you will have a period.
I heard what he said. Red,
you will. Okay, loyal. Rule 1. Say it with me. Can you say it? What's rule 1?
You're a scumbag?
You will be muted for the next 5 minutes. It was funny. True.
And
yeah, you laugh. That's the rule. If you laugh, he's good.
That is true. That's technically true. But let me be clear. RedNeQ, you took offense to that. Wrong. Okay, you'll get a period to respond, but let Joe Lewis finish his point.
That. And the big thing is too, right? So like one thing that you mentioned is that like a singular instance should be acknowledged as something that's very serious. If we take that to its logical conclusion, then there's no way that anybody can defend the White House's response to COVID-19. because with that exact same logic, we should have taken COVID-19 incredibly seriously from day zero, when even it was just like a little bit of a glimmer. So I'm not even sure if you ideologically agree with that statement. And I want to give you the floor to maybe like, I want to understand more. Like, do you really believe that a singular instance of fraud could indicate a problem that has to be overcorrected like that?
So what I was saying is, we live in the greatest nation, and yet you're telling me we can't figure out a way.
That's Trump rhetoric right there. That's American exceptionalism. Like that Trump exceptionalism. We're the greatest.
Bro,
keep going.
I feel that because I served my country and I've been raised the fucking old bootstrap your way up. I am an old boomer mentality guy, but not a boomer. I'm a Gen Xer, but I have busted my ass. I've worked forever, right? But I'm a disabled veteran. So yeah, I have a system program. I got universal health care that everybody wants. It's based off the VA. I disagree with all that bullshit. We've talked about all this stuff plenty. My concerns is that I had to live through this with Bush and Gore. And I voted for Bush, and Gore won, and Gore was already transitioning. And guess what happened? That shit got recalled 36 days later. Do you know how much bullshit we dealt with from the hanging chads? But none of y'all are old enough. Well, I mean, 2 or 3 of you guys are. But I mean, it was fucking hell. I have never voted straight Republican. I voted for Democrats. I voted Republican. I am an independent / libertarian. I vote for the people and their policy. I don't give a fuck about their side. Okay. But this time I stood with Trump, and this was the first time I ever voted the second time for the same president. And with the amount of fuckery that is abound, we can't just sit here and go, look, if the day that Joe Biden is sworn in, I will come back on here and tell everybody Joe Biden's my president, and I will support him just as much as I support Trump right fucking now. And if you doubt me, bring me on January 21st, and we'll fucking do this if he's there. And I'm just saying, I want this. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of it from Hillary Clinton. I'm tired of it from Obama. I'm tired of it from it. It has happened in every election that I can recall from 1980. What was it after the first Clinton one? We've had issues where they want to do the legal challenges, and I'm with you. I don't want it to go to the courts. I think it should be able to be handled. But my exceptionalism comment is based off the fact that can we not create a voting system in America that fucking works, where every vote is unable to be hacked, like a fingerprint or a fucking picture or a retinal scan? I don't give a fuck. Something like, seriously, is it this fucking hard? That's my point, bro.
I want to rebuttal very quickly.
And after that, I want to throw it over to CTV, who hasn't got a single point to talk in this whole discussion yet.
Yeah, so a very key thing is that that's an illogical expectation to have within society. Every single piece of equipment that we have in our hands right now, my phone can be compromised. We learned that with Ed Snowden. My mixer can be compromised. I can get radio interference from an airplane, but that doesn't mean I'm going scrying to the fences about things. And something else too, and I'll drop it because, again, like, look, I'm a transracial adoptee and a Black American. I've been fucked by every single legislation and every single president since LBJ. The government does not give a shit about adoptees, and that's literally a national crisis within every single administration, and they choose not to do something. Thankfully, Hillary Clinton created the Office of Child Services so we can actually find stuff out about child abductions, but that's besides the point. My point here is, again, like, are you willing to say that one instance is enough to cause an overcorrection? In this case, I'm talking about
when I say one instance, I am talking about the local level. Because remember, we've had conversations in the past about how I believe the government should work. I believe it should be more localized. So, for instance, let's say you did your like, I live in a small rural community. Me and my wife voted in person. Yet when we go look on our website, it says that we were absentee, and it ain't even recording our votes. We're in Wisconsin, and we're in one of the last 2 counties that were sent in that night.
Sure.
Explain that to me. I voted in person. So now we know, hang on. So we know that there was only 330 people that voted out of that little building we voted out of. One vote would matter, right?
I would agree with that as well, the same way that my vote would matter. And that's a bigger conversation of like making sure that every American's vote in this room right now matters.
We're saying
equally.
The same thing.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that. Yeah, and we're going to talk about it, especially when we get to Puerto Rico.
Down to the one. Yeah,
right,
I mean,
but here's the
I'm
thing.
with you.
But here's the thing. Like, my vote has been invalidated since 2008. every single election. I voted in every single election. This is the first election where my vote has been valid, and I can check online, and I mailed my vote in. So like my anecdotal evidence can trump your anecdotal evidence because both of our instances can be true. But my concern here is that we're not going to reach an electoral system where every single vote is going to be acknowledged and treated equally. Now, what's going to happen is there's going to be a bunch of different irregularities.
Why
You can have irregularities like my ballot, where I had 2 different last names for over close to 2 decades. You can have irregularities with the pinpoint system in Florida, which was one of the problems with the recount for Bush v. Gore.
Or address changes. That's a big deal right now. And I think those votes should count. And some people say no. I'm like, what? It's just an address change. It happens.
And my big thing is that I want to make sure we don't, like, if we say something, right? If I say that, like, if one vote is a problem, then we have to overcorrect, that sets a very dangerous precedent. And even in terms of the government, it's not consistent with how the government works. If I die right now, it's not an epidemic to people within this panel that there's like panelists dying on Twitch. You know what I'm saying? But with the same logic of voter fraud, if I were to die right now on Twitch, it's like there's an epidemic of people on panels dying. We better call the FBI and get on that. That's not what's going to happen, you know?
Okay, CTV, did you want to go next? You haven't gone yet, so I wanted to open up a spot for you to say something if you wanted.
Well, we've kind of been on this for almost an hour.
We're going to be wrapping this up soon.
Yeah, so if you want to wrap it up, I can just make my closing statement. That'll be fun.
Okay, I'll cross your name out. The people who have raised their hand besides that is going to be Mel, Counter, and he shall not be named. Mel, you're next.
Yeah, I mean, all I wanted to address is, I mean, I wanted to build on Joe's point. I mean, I had something else completely different, but I guess I'll just be real fast with this. Like, I think a lot of people are more concerned about this election is because this is a pivotal election for a lot of people. A lot of people that actually that have stakes on the line haven't either had access to voting, haven't had resources to help them vote, or haven't been motivated enough to vote, or they just didn't care. And so you have a bunch of people that are flooding out the gates to vote. And unfortunately, a lot of these people are people of color. And historically, because of voter ID laws, because of like just barriers to work, barriers to where people live, public transit, all these things, when people of color feel that their vote's at stake and they're going out to vote, they're vastly discriminated. So a lot of the concern for this election was, are all of these votes going to be counted? Because unfortunately, a lot of those votes that came out of Georgia were out of predominantly Black and brown districts. And so they wanted to make sure that the votes were counted correctly. They wanted to make sure that these people were also voting because a lot of people have lives on the line for this. So yeah, we can atomize every single individual vote, but we have to look at the demographics and the people that are also voting as well. And like Joe raises a really good point. He actually felt like his election, like this was his election. And to a lot of people, that's what it felt like. So, I mean, I don't know. I just think it's silly to get really defensive about like the way people are voting. Like the voting system in America is incredibly lopsided.
Okay, next, LoyalLogic, you're next.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what my point is that we need to hear out the other side and not jump. Like Jangles, I love you, but like when you say, "Oh, dumb Trump," it's like, dude, you're better than that, because it's like I know that you have the capacity to go, okay, let's listen. Because calling anybody dumb,
the reason I called them idiots.
No, I know.
I called them idiots because I did listen.
I know. Well, but yeah, but.
It
Just
was
because
data
I know, but just because you know someone is stupid or an idiot doesn't mean you have to call them that. Like that's the point, is because if they are stupid or an idiot, not saying you are Red, but what's going to happen? You're going to have someone attack you. They're not going to sit there and go, "Oh, I'm stupid, an idiot. Let me hear more." And that's what we're having a lot of. I mean, I'm go back to what Mel said at the very beginning, and no one listened to her, and I did because I liked it because we're on the opposite sides. We need to start talking to each other. Discourse is extremely important. It is so important. And you don't, just because you disagree with somebody.
Do you remember my opening statement where I said that in order to have a productive conversation, we have to have a shared reality?
No, that's not always true, though. That's not always true, though. No, it's not. I've debated flat earthers. No. Okay, let me finish. I've debated flat earthers. I've debated flat earthers, and guess what? They still believe the earth is flat. I don't share the reality with them, but I don't call them stupid or idiots, because what is that going to do? It's only going to fan the flames of people getting angry and upset and thinking that the other person's out to get them because they think they're stupid. That's all my.
Well, I even
Okay.
I appreciate the stealing.
All right, I'll say something now.
Wait,
I'll say something.
That's called being politically correct.
Please. Okay.
But Jangles.
Okay.
Jangles.
I don't. Nobody's listening. Okay. So, let me just check. Does anybody in here have a history of hearing loss? Does anybody in here need hearing aids? Okay. So RedNeQ. That is understandable. Anybody else? No.
I haven't.
Then for everyone else, you don't have a justification for when I'm talking, you talking. Okay. Now. We're going to now go slide towards ending statements. I'm going to start with Counter because he was on the list last. And then it's going to be CTV because they said they wanted to have theirs. We're running out of time, so I want to make sure we have enough time to address all the topics people worked really hard to research for, the maybe one who did. So we're going to throw it over to Counter.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, excellent. So, just to begin my closing statement with, the only thing I'm certain of is my own ignorance, which is also a fancy way of saying the only thing that I'm smart about is the fact that I'm dumb. So I do come off sometimes a little bit abrasive, a little bit meany, a little bit of an asshole, but at the same time, like it's coming from a place of I've researched a lot of things, so I feel confident in my answer, but I can be very wrong about shit. The things that I guess we kind of blew right past this shit in this conversation is the entire point of the conversation was what kind of violence or what kind of protests, what kind of demonstrations can we expect over the next 4 years? And I'm dead smack in the middle of Jangles and Loyal's perspective, which is you need a shared reality in order to be able to have discourse. I don't agree with that, but I also think that people use not having shared realities as an excuse in order to avoid discourse because nobody's going to be convinced anyways. And that's kind of like where I have to call a little bit of bullshit. I have and had some pretty right-wing beliefs. I've moved more center because of very strong people on the left who made really good arguments. And I'll just close there. If we're going to fix this, if we're going to fix this fucking country, then we do have to improve our discourse because right now it's really toxic and shitty.
Okay, next is going to be CTV.
So at this point, I really feel like that the amount of time that I've spent on the Hippie Dippy has dealing actually rubbing off on me, right? I really feel like that I'm about to have the most base take in the room, right? So with that being said, I sat here and I listened and watched everybody in the room for the whole time. And what I heard was a lot of divisiveness on both sides. And I think that we've got some pretty clear examples of what individuals are like that out on the street, right? So with that being said, the right doesn't trust the left and the left doesn't trust the right, right? And the right is over here saying, hey, we want to look at this stuff, and the left saying that we don't, right? Reality is that if Trump retains office somehow, right, the left's going to be pissed off. If it goes through the process and Biden wins, that could be all right. But if Biden decides to take the route of implementing the gun legislation that he has already planned out on his docket and it's listed on his website, I could see that turning into a very, very bad situation really, really quick, right? So it's really what this is all going to play out to is that how hard is the left going to be trying to, like as Joe put it, right, try to, break right-wingers from the way that they're thinking, right? Because that shit's not going to work. Nobody is going to just volunteer to be broken, right? And anybody that ever says that they're just going to volunteer for that is bullshit because when push comes to shove, you're going to fight. So with all that being said, the candor in which things are handled from here on out is going to be very, very important. And if people can't learn to be patient, the impatience is going to drive violence.
Okay, now I'm going to throw this over to Mel.
Yeah, I think we did kind of skip the boat a little bit. I just think we all need to be conscious of what's going to happen. I mean, there's definitely just schisms in both parties, right? I mean, I kind of saw like LoyalLogic and RedNeQ kind of like argue like even like their own semantics about, and they're both like, I would say around the same side. Like Connor is a little bit center of them. So like we do have issues where like we're not going to be on the equal plane. We're still going to like, I mean, I would say that I'm probably like the furthest left person in this room and in a lot of places. And I still find at least some common ground with people that are like in my own like world. Be like me and Dylan, we're pretty polar opposite on a lot of things.
I'll be honest, but like we do see the world, and I do understand like the whole point of like a shared reality, right? So like me and Dylan, different views. We do see the world in the same way. We want the same things, right? So we're all trying to reach for the same goal. I don't know, man. Just listen to each other, I guess. This was kind of a weird thing to end on. I don't know. Just take care of each other. Next topic.
Peace and love. Kumbaya. Okay, we're going to send it over to Joe Lewis.
Yeah, I'm just going to pivot right back to the whole thing about demonstrations. Like, we can historically look back to what happens after elections. And the big thing, which is key across every single election, when we look at election protests, fear is not a justification of an outcome. So we can be fearful of something. We can have that shared reality of being fearful towards something, but that doesn't equate it to the outcome. And what we see in practice is that we have that disconnect of thinking like, oh, we're fearful of this because it's going to happen. Look, no, like I'm fearful of my deer in my backyard, all 13 of them at this point, because they had kids the other day, of rising up and seizing the means of production and taking the food in my house. But that's not going to happen. That's a fear, but is that an outcome? Right? They're getting a little big as Jangles getting, so they can square up. But here's the thing, like to circle it back, right? Just remember that portion. But another thing that we gotta remember, right, is that pay attention to how these talks about protesters and demonstrators are being put within politicians' rhetoric. We know in practice that right-wingers, when they do overt documented violence, they're single actors, as even on the side of Antifa. And even like Richard Spencer says they're willing to go to the extent that no one else is willing to go. But even he doesn't fundamentally understand that Antifa and the idea of being anti-fascist is a viewpoint. So everybody's going to interpret that differently. But just because somebody does one thing doesn't make it indicative to the entire viewpoint at large. Right? Like, I'm an Eagles fan, but I'm not one of those crazy Eagles fans that's going to bleach their skin green and go out there, rah, Carson Wentz is the future. It's like, look, man, we don't know quarterback in the Eagles are going to be the fucking future. Fucking just draft better. But anyway, that's all I got from it. Just look, fear is not the justification of the outcome. So don't be afraid of political violence. You just look back to history and then use the history to kind of predict the outcome.
Look, I accept a lot of bipartisan viewpoints. I'm not going to accept an Eagles fan. We're throwing it over to the Serfs next.
So I think the question was originally about the protests and the violence that were taking place in DC that just went by. If we all live in the shared reality, I think then we all have to accept the fact that when it comes to right-wing extreme violence in the United States, as well as many parts of the first world, it comes from the right to far right individuals. And it's usually terrorism at the hands of right and far right extremists. And I don't think that's entirely because at the end of the day, they have some deep racism, like people like to paint them as. And I don't agree with the characterization that people in rural America are rednecks, are low IQ, or any of that shit. I think that stuff is contributing towards the idea that they feel vilified and ostracized by the mainstream, by the liberal elites, or whatever you want to call it. I think at the end of the day, they are terrified like everyone else because they're experiencing the same kind of alienation as everyone else. And they're being taught by certain people, like, again, media personalities, Breitbart, far-right publications, that they have to be scared and fight a certain people. And that's why they become radicalized. That's why they create violence. So when people like me on the left tell you about this, we tell it to you because we are at the same time trying to bridge the gap between that to reach out, and at the same time also tell you that there are individuals within amongst our midst that are experiencing that violence as reality every single day. And especially this week being Trans Awareness Week, there's an untold amount of violence that is wrought about the trans community, especially women of color who happen to be part of the trans community. And that is just like a very grim reality they live with every single day. So it's one of those reasons why we're trying to both bridge the gap, but also say we should be sentient and realize the true numbers and the true casualties that are coming at the ends of this war.
Okay, next I'm going to be throwing this over to Jangles.
So first of all, Lance is fucking based. Everything he said was just incredible, and that's the kind of like closing statement I wish I could give. And I have to apologize. I'm a little more spicy than usual. I'm overcome from the trauma because something I haven't mentioned till now. So I'm from Kentucky, a very red state, and today I went to vote. I saw them emptying out just truckfuls of Biden ballots with pitchforks. I saw them. And then when I went in there, they made me did all 10 of my fingers in Sharpie, and they made me like put each individual finger on a Trump ballot to make me vote for Trump. They made me do that. I just wish that people would understand how horrible and evil and vile the Republicans in my state are. Now, what if I was the most powerful fucking person in the world and had spent 4 years telling you to distrust everyone other than me? Do you think that might be cause for concern in terms of the violent actions that might follow that? So no one demanded proof of Trump when he said, or no one on his side, all of his followers, no one demanded proof. He said there was fraud. That means there was fraud, and you have to disprove it otherwise. That's what I mean by shared reality, and that's what I mean by it's actually really fucking scary that people will just accept this complete baseless lie with no expectation of proof. And that doesn't sit well with me. I'm an American. I'm a proud American. I believe in those enlightenment values of logic and reason. And when someone doesn't substantiate their arguments, that just hits a patriotic part of my core that I just can't, I can't abide by. So next topic.
Okay. Next is going to be LoyalLogic.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I said it. Biden won. I don't believe there's massive election fraud. But like I said, the protests are inevitable if you're going to have one side say there's no fraud. That's the problem. If we're going to be intellectually honest, that's where you pull back and you say, hey, let's look into this. And the problem is that when you have one side not willing to sit down and say, let's look into this, you're going to have people that are quote unquote, you can say they're dumb, say, well, why aren't they saying this? This is, yeah, I agree with Joe. It is small evidence that's being blown up. I've said that on my stream. What the fuck are you guys doing? You're fucking idiots. You're blowing up shit that does not make sense. It's not massive election fraud. I've said it. But nobody's willing to have that discussion. And this is going to keep happening with other issues in the future, like Critical said, with the gun. I mean, we're going to have many more issues down the line. This is going to happen to. This is just one election. It's amazing we keep forgetting. I've been in politics 17 years. We'll have another election and another election after that. This isn't the end all be all. So we need to really stop what we're doing now on polarizing one group as stupid. I know, Jangles, you didn't mean it, but we need to stop doing that, because what's going to happen when we're really going to have a Timothy McVeigh? Yeah, he was on the right. I don't know why Lance said that. I'm not stupid. I know that. That was my point, is what's going to happen when we have that. Now, do we blame ourselves? I don't know. I don't know what we do at that point, because we have opportunities now with social media and everything. And this is weird to me. It doesn't make sense. We're in the greatest time of history where we can talk to each other, and we use our platforms, not us, but everybody else, is to call one side dumb and the other side dumb. And there's massive election fraud. And then you have people like me in the middle that are just trying to say, listen, let the process play out. I don't care what Trump says. I'm going to let the process play out. If he loses, he loses. As far as I see it, Joe Biden's won. Next topic.
Hey, we're going to wrap this up with RedNeQ.
So I listened to 3 different people. Joe, my brother, number one, mentioned the words, how do we re-educate these people? I listened to Jangles. Basically, they just can't accept that they're total losers. I heard Mel saying we all just need to, be kumbaya, make love, and everything's going to be good. For 4.5 years, we have listened to vitriol spewed based off of conspiracy theories that ended up being factually, legally proven to be cooked up by none other than the same fucking party who is telling 74 million Americans, don't worry, there's nothing going on here. Shut the fuck up and accept the loss. I'm sorry, people. As a patriotic American, I'm tired of being told I'm a piece of shit. I'm tired of being told I'm a racist. I'm tired of being told that my name, which nobody asked how I got it, and if you ever want to know, we'll go down that road, but my name is clearly a representation of a racist term flipped. I'm not your typical white boy. I've gangbanged. I've lived in the hood. I've bootstrapped. Yeah, you white liberals think everything's glorified. You know what's uncommon is rednecks and hood brothers are the exact same people. They're both underserved and disadvantaged the same way by their same government. That's why they get along so fucking well in the South. Go to the most rural areas of the fucking South that y'all claim and think is the most racist, and you got brothers and sisters of all colors working their asses off. You can flip your finger all you want. I'm from Texas. I'm a native Texan. I've done my time in Louisiana and all across the South. I'm an anecdotal Andy, call me what you will, but more northern white liberals are more racist because you think that people can't do something because of the color of skin. I don't look at people that way. And I'm tired of being told that. And I'm tired of, and the fight that you're going to get from the 74 million of us is that for 4.5 years, you've been saying shit off of conspiracy theories. And now all we're asking for is just to let the legal process work itself out. And let's make this as transparent as possible. And you guys are fighting us the whole way. That's what it is. You can call me triggered. You can call me whatever you want. I'm just asking for a fair and honest look at everything because I'm tired of my government. I do not trust my government. I've never trusted my government since I served them and they disabled me. So forgive me. Anecdotal Andy out.
Okay. Chat, you guys are having a party. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're gonna start transferring to the next topic, which is, will the financial cost of the Democratic Party's platform be too much to bear? Obviously, while it has not been confirmed by the Electoral College yet, it is currently looking like that Joe Biden will most likely be the next president of the United States. So I thought talking about the Democratic Party's platform, not just his own platform generally, and what they plan to put on the table, and the financial costs, which has been talked about recently a lot online. But I'm going to cut a quick ad So, due to the recent Harry Styles controversy, where he is bringing down the nation with chains and fire and address, I have decided the next sub goal, if I hit 500 subs, I will do a stream in a maid outfit. Why not? It wasn't my idea, but you know what? Why not? I need to feed myself, and if I can feed myself through that way, why not? Sounds like it'll be fun. I'm pretty enough for it, so I think I can do it. I think I could pull it off.
We stand.
Clarifying question.
Wonderful. What's a clarifying question?
Well, are we talking about like a French maid outfit, or
we're
are we talking about like the mama's
hype,
down home, she's in the kitchen?
Thank you so much for the hype train. I don't know what cued that hype train. It's a pink maid outfit.
Ooh. I think we all know what cued that hype train.
It is a pink.
Where's
this money coming from? So much money raining upon me.
It is a pink maid outfit with frills at the bottom, frills at the top. And
you're gonna have an apron too, right?
Yeah, it comes with an apron. It's the whole shebang. It will be a whole stream where I'll wear it.
It's gonna be laced.
And there it is already laced up. It's got everything. Thank you for the level 1 hype train. I don't know where that came from. I appreciate all the tier 1s. There's a lot of tier 1s right now.
Dylan, as a fellow dress wearer, you're doing it right. Let's go. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you so much. I think I got the hair. I think I got the pretty eyes. I think I got everything I need to pull it off. But there's also a referendum added because due to a vote in chat. If you somehow get the 600, then I will also add cat ears.
Nice.
There you go.
Come on, that ruins it right away.
Let's go.
Yeah, well, that's why it's the 100 extra.
Look, I still got another question.
What's the next
How
question?
many subs would we have to have for you to do like a turnstile walk and some high heels?
I am not wearing high heels. I'm gonna draw a line there.
Because I bet you probably got some pretty good looking calves, bro. I'm just saying.
You're a coward.
Thank you.
Hey, Dylan.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I just want to acknowledge and say that your capitalistic scum needs to acknowledge that it's after RedNeQ speaks every time that this stuff happens. I am literally a godsend for money making. Wow. So just remember that.
Would you like to wear a maid's outfit with me, RedNeQ?
Are you a multi-level marketing scheme, RedNeQ?
Would you like to double?
Let's just say that multiple panels get paid a shit ton of subs to shut me or to have me get off their stream. So
I don't accept not accept subs to mute or kick people. Someone would have to drop a lot of money for me to ever kick anybody. It would need to be I'm a high-priced individual, okay? I'm high class, as you can tell, obviously.
Anyway, has its price.
Anyway, I have a few questions as well, but I'll DM them to you later.
Okay, you can DM me the questions later. Wonderful. So we're going to go into the next topic, which is, will the financial cost of the Democratic Party's platform be too much to bear? This time we're going to start with the top left-hand corner with politically correct redneck, also known as Jangles.
Excellent. I am so far outside of my depth when I talk about economics and things like that I'm tempted just to rattle off things that I think off the top of my head, just so they can be hilariously disproven later. Might add for some good conversation. So I think that money is neat. I think that we should probably use taxes for stuff and things.
Spicy takes. Money is neat.
Money is neat.
Taxes for
Hey, that is an interruption that didn't make me laugh.
Sorry. Mute me. I accept.
So I don't see anything crazy about it. I mean, like the rich people can pay their fair share. They can pay a little bit more than they're paying now. Like anybody who says that they're a self-made person is completely just bullshitting you. Like the amount of like interactions it takes for you to succeed in society are just enormous and incomprehensible. So if you have gotten to like the top of the like financial hierarchy, if you want to call it that, you kind of owe it to the rest of society, all the laborers who like put you on their backs collectively and got you there. You kind of owe it to like give back to the system. We need more money in education, especially in like elementary and middle school, is in low income neighborhoods. We need a lot of student loan forgiveness because just like the absolute failures to fund school has and a lot of other factors have just ballooned the cost of a secondary education that is going to drastically improve the quality of life for most people. So I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to go ahead and stop talking unless someone who might know literally anything about this topic because they will be more informed than me. Go.
Okay. Thank you so much for the level 4 hype train. Again, this unprompted flow of cash towards the show, supporting it, I deeply appreciate. I don't know why this is happening, but you're all so thirsty. It's unbelievable. It's actually unbelievable. We're going to throw it next to LoyalLogic.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't even see a lot of what Joe Biden wants to do or the Democrats. I don't see it getting done. Sure, you could say it's a lot of money. I mean, but what's a lot of money under the Federal Reserve? It's all fake. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, you could say, oh, it's not fake. But the Federal Reserve, it's based on nothing. It's just paper. So, I mean, it'd be nice to, because I am a Republican. I'd like some universal health care, but I just don't agree with the way the left wants to do it. I want to actually build an infrastructure of mental health and healthcare services. That's not going to be done, though. We're just going to keep funding big pharma and stuff. That's my fear with universal healthcare under the Democratic plan or even a Republican plan. We're just going to keep throwing money at these big companies. So that's my fear, is the money is going to go to the wrong people. I mean, right or left, it happens. I don't care who spends money as long as it's going to the right people. That's what I care about. As far as student loan forgiveness, I'd rather evaluate the loans and forgive the ones people that actually need it, or restructure them. You shouldn't be forgiving a loan for somebody that can afford it. I just don't see the bet. I'd rather that money go to somebody that needs mental health services. See, that's my problem with a lot of these things on the left with Biden and a lot of the supporters. It's like, why can't we just talk about where the money's going and focus on that versus just saying, oh, let's just forgive all loans? That's my fear. It's a big fear of mine. I don't mind spending money. I'm not one of those Republicans that's like, oh man, we got every dollar like McConnell. I understand saving a couple bucks here and there. Like, I get it. I think most people want to do that, but unfortunately, our leadership, they're so inept. They don't know what the hell they're doing half the time. They'll give money to their friends. I mean, that's why when the stimulus started to ramble, but when the stimulus bills were passed, who got paid first? The Wall Street, the billionaires, these big people, because nobody cares anymore. Nobody. People will all say here, the left and right will all say we care. We don't give a shit, because guess what? We're still going to go into Biden. He's going to do the same thing. He's stacking his cabinet with people that are in the oil industry, the arms industry. No one cares, because that's the system we're in. We're in it. What's in it for me? And I don't like that. I think about what's in it for everybody else, because I'm going to be fine. That's it.
Okay. Next, we're going to go to RedNeQ.
Ditto on most of LoyalLogic's take. I'm anecdotal Andy on this one. The biggest thing that the Democratic plan that Joe Biden has is the healthcare, universal healthcare, point blank. I'm a disabled veteran, was disabled young during the first Gulf. I have experienced universal health care for over 20 years of my life. And if that's the system they're going to model, I can't do it. I'm begging for something different. And I'm just saying, factually, people, when you put the government in charge, I mean, my body, my choice. I don't have no choice. I can only do what the VA tells me I can do. I only get the medications that the VA sends me. I don't get a choice of whether or not I want to take a generic or a name brand. I don't get a choice of the quantity they send me. They send me an over amount of 90 fucking oxycodone or whatever the fuck, any kind of pill I need, right? Anything I want, they'll send me en masse. That's why so many veterans are dying. So when I look at the Democratic plan, RedNeQ here is a very social person. If I need to show you my I-8 or whatever that damn test everybody here made me take, I am very social leaning on policies to help others. And as someone that is a very conservative person, I want it done very efficiently and effectively. And I don't want it to harm, and I don't want the governments to choose how they do it. And I just see the Biden administration is going backwards 20 years to the Clinton days, i.e. big money, big war, oil, stay in Iraq, stay in Afghanistan, all of the same Bush, Clinton bullshit. We're going right back to those times. And I don't want to see y'all have to go to war for any longer. We've already been in war. I don't want to see any more of my veteran buddies losing their lives to suicide because they're in pain. And mental health, when you talk about mental health, you all, if you don't know, I also suffer from a mental disability. So yes, I'm very serious about mental health. And I'm telling y'all, there's 4,400 mental health experts in America as of the year 2017 for 1.3 million veterans who had seen active combat. Now, that number has been increased to 7,800 as of 2020. Do y'all think that's a good ratio for mental health? And that's government controlled. So when all of you Democrats or people that vote for Biden or this universal health care, just that alone, I'm just going to leave it on that one. I can't do it with you because you don't know and you haven't been in here. That's it.
Okay, next I'm going to be throwing it over to Joe Lewis.
Yeah, it's very concerning to me that we're using feminist slogans concerning the women's rights movement and making the analogous to healthcare for veterans. But with that being said, it's important that government maintains oversight of their own policies in order to make sure that they are not only economically beneficial, but socially beneficial. In practice, that does not happen, or the government feels like they can self-regulate, which yields like mixed results. Defunding other programs has a benefit to meet certain financial needs, especially, for example, defunding within offices of the Department of Homeland Security. But even that still requires oversight. I think we should definitely consider third-party, nonpartisan oversight if we're looking to keep the thumb on the pulse of any type of changes that we're looking, especially when it comes to Joe Biden's policies.
Okay, next we're going to throw it over to Counter.
Yeah, so I'm fucking livid because I'm a Republican in the sense that I believe that, you know, I'm not a pure Democrat. I don't believe in the rule of people. I think we need to establish good laws. And I think we, you know, I genuinely believe in a republic, a state that's run by the rule of laws. But Republicans have fucking shit the bed so hard every single time that they're in power. They talk about deficit spending. They talk about social entitlements. They talk about all these welfare and, you know, parasites and all this bullshit. And then they get into fucking office and they spend more money than Democrats. The last time we had a fucking balanced budget was with Clinton. Trump spent more than fucking Obama did. And here's another fact. So, okay, so I have two things before I shut the fuck up because I'm kind of pissed. So Republicans will slash education and they will slash medical stuff, and then they will say, hey, look, the system doesn't work, your education is dog shit, your healthcare is dog shit, and they'll basically attack the fucking system that is basically supporting it. And RedNeQ, I know that the VA fucking sucks because I too am somebody who has had fucking pain issues for a really long time. I've had public healthcare and I've had private healthcare simultaneously. So when I went to the fucking VA and I have bulging discs in my neck, they literally x-rayed my shit and then told me to take Motrin and to fuck off. And then when I went to the private fucking healthcare system, they basically charged me an arm and a leg to tell me that absolutely nothing was going on. So guess what? The entire system fucking sucks. I would rather pay fucking money and force these motherfuckers to give us services that we actually deserve. And here's another statistic. We have spent $48 billion every single year in Afghanistan for the past fucking 2 decades without blinking a fucking eye. Universal secondary education for college would cost $78 billion a year, according to fucking Bernie Sanders. I would rather spend 100% of that $78 billion fucking budget on the education of my fellow citizens. That way my fucking Walmart fucking cashier knows who Socrates is, rather than fucking pay it to fucking but I see all the commies getting really excited. I'm still an apologist for the American empire, so don't get too excited. But at the same time, I would rather spend that shit so my fucking Walmart greeter knows who Socrates is than fucking blowing up motherfuckers halfway across the world. End of rant.
Okay, next is going to be Mel. And Kamala Harris has joined the call. Oh, nope, she left. Oh. Mel, you are muted.
So my only problem is I don't think the Democrats, I don't necessarily think their plan in economics is bad. My problem is, are they willing to do it? Like, are they going to have enough popular support? Biden has seen to have flopped on Medicare for all. His plan wasn't as didn't have as much utility as Bernie's, and so a lot of people kind of gave up on Biden because he's basically just doing a better version of Obamacare, but he's not actually going straight for Medicare for all. So I think it's just the policy positions and the AOCs of the world and the people that are going to convince or attempt to push Biden left are going to be the real determinant whether we even see these policies, not even how much they cost. Because a lot of the establishment Democrats, they want to retain on the capitalism. They like neoliberalism. So why would they want to pay even more money to help people when they can still make profits off of it? I mean, that's pretty much what this all boils down to. I mean, so Connor is right in the regards that there are people that are going to like the way the American empire does things. And those people are never going to let anything, free healthcare happen. So, I mean, it's just about policy, not necessarily the cost of it. I mean, the Democrats can afford it. Our country can afford it. It's all there.
And next is going to be the Serfs.
So I'm going to agree a little bit with Comrade LoyalLogic in that, I don't exactly think that the Federal Reserve being such a necessary part of our government system is a good way going forward. What I think you're referring to is called fiat currency, and that we don't have a gold standard in the United States anymore, so we can actually just print money when we need it to fulfill certain policy decisions, if you will. So I'm not going to go down too much into the MMT version of this discussion. I think a lot of people, their knee-jerk reaction would be to either make fun of what RedNeQ was saying or to try and criticize it. I actually agree with a lot of what he's saying, and it genuinely breaks my heart that people don't listen to that side of the argument when you've got an actual veteran telling you that this is fucked up, this is the way it shouldn't be. I wish more people would listen to me. And that's exactly what I've been talking about since the start of this entire debate or whatever you want to call it. I feel that people aren't actually listening to that side of the argument, and when at the end of the day, it's a really easy thing to point out that the rest of the world, other developed countries that are way less rich than the United States, they're doing these systems such as Medicare for all, public health care options. They're not spending nearly as much as the United States does, and yet they're achieving results that enable multiple people within their society to have health care as a human right. I think every single person thinks on some level that should just be the way we do it, right? We as participants in a society, we agree to pay dues to be in a club. And to be part of that club, we pay our dues. They're called taxes. And when we pay those taxes to be part of the club, we should get certain things in return. And so we determine as a society what we want those things to be. One of those things I think most people can agree on at this point is that we should just be able to live. I shouldn't have to decide whether or not I'm going to go broke, whether or not I'm going to have to be able to feed my kids, whether or not I can send them to school, or should I check out whether or not I broke my leg or something like that. And it turns out other countries already do that, and they do it totally fine. So America being the richest country in the world, the question is, how are we going to pay for it? We already know the answer to that.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to CTV.
All right, so fuck FDR. Right. That's what I'm going to say right off the bat. And fuck the Federal Reserve. Right? Fuck both of them. Right? The reason why I'm going to say that is because as soon as the Federal Reserve got into being a thing, and that was, hold on, let me 1913, right? These guys get together down on fucking Jekyll Island. They get they put the fucking legislation in place. Woodrow Wilson passes it, and boom, now we've got this fucking system that has affected everything else from that point on, right? FDR gets into office, and he says, "We've got the solution, right? The New Deal, people. That's what we're going to do, right? Now you can be dependent on the government, right?" And what I really feel like the fucking problem was that Republicans didn't have a fucking spine back then to say, "No, we don't want the government involved in these fucking things," right? And they were fucking. I'm going to go ahead and stop right there because I was about to use a word, right? I think we know where I was going with that. So because they didn't have what the cojones to say no, because from the ideology of a conservative and having limited government and the government not being involved with these things, that's exactly what you would want, right? So the problem that we have now is that we've switched over from the gold standard to the fiat currency, and the left looks at it and they go, "Geez, we got all this fucking money. We can just spend. And boy, they love spending, right? Let's just keep creating government programs upon government programs, right? They just cost more and more money, which beholdens not us today, but our fucking grandchildren to be able to pay back this debt, because it's not like if you take out a debt that it just magically goes away. How many times does that work in your fucking life? It doesn't. If you don't, they come take your fucking truck, right? And that's eventually what's going to happen at some point if we can't figure out how to fucking get this shit working, right? So, like, there's been a study that's went out that said that if we took all the money that was spent on social welfare, et cetera, down the line, and we actually put that to a UBI, we'd actually save fucking money, right? So if we're going to have to be stuck with this system now, we should figure out a way for it to best serve the people and to be able to scale back the government to such a degree to where we actually have some type of freedom, because we don't have it now, and that's what we need.
Okay, we're going to open the discussion to general. If anybody said anything you disagree with or agree with, you can comment.
Yeah, but I just want to say, Lance, I'm friends with Nate, so I won't get into it, but I am not a full supporter of MMT, but maybe that's a discussion we have in the future. I got what you were going with that.
Can I just make sure that since I'm probably the most far right person here, like assumed, I have the most far right leaning ideas, i.e. close to white supremacist to most people. Like that's what I'm projected as. Let's just say this,
brother RedNeQ, you're translucent, right?
I know, I claim, but they don't ever ask me what I claim. So
fair enough.
I, as a conservative person, want a very small government. And I want small taxes, but I want everyone to be able to get healthcare and education, food, clothing. I mean, the basic necessities of life I am all about, but my
just not
approach,
from the government, out of curiosity.
Say again?
But just not from the government, you mean?
Right.
Out of curiosity.
I believe, as we all have agreed, our country is so wealthy that we can give. And if more people would give instead of take, you would find that this thing works. And if we open up the markets, i.e., for instance, if I was given a voucher, or when I talk about healthcare, I'll make it real easy for y'all. I want every American to have the exact same healthcare that every congressman and senator have. Is that fair?
No, I want Trump.
That would be socialized medicine. What you just
I don't believe that.
I want Trump.
No, they have a
PPO.
They have a PPO and an HMO.
I do not believe it's social.
They have an HMO PPO. They're allowed to go to any doctor, any state they're at, and they're able to go to they can choose it. Every American should have the exact same health care that our own politicians have.
And we can be I want to pick this up. We can build an infrastructure. This is the thing. We built a military industrial complex. Why can't we build a medical industrial complex? I don't understand this in this country.
I can tell you why.
No, we have it. Corporations, big pharma. We have companies that are making billions billions of dollars off of debt.
Not the government. It's not the government. It's the corporations. You're so close. That's all I keep thinking. I want to bridge the gap here. We're so close.
But
Mayo
that's
Clinic,
the thing is that
Mayo
we
Clinic.
make investments, and we make investments in anything. Like we built up the best military in the world for what reason? It didn't happen overnight. It was over decades of time. If we start now, in 10, 20 years, we can have a medical system in this country that is so efficient that when people have even a stub of toe, they can go to the doctor that day. And it takes time. People want to switch a switch. My problem with that is the wrong people are going to take advantage of it, and they're going to get filthy fucking rich, and nobody's actually going to get taken care of in this country.
I mean, LoyalLogic. I mean, insurance companies have been ripping off the average American for the last like 100 years. Like,
But
it's
they've
already
been
happening.
enabled. They've been enabled.
Mel, I will. You know what, Mel? That's the one thing me and you will agree on right fucking now. The American insurance has been created by Benjamin
HMOs
Franklin. Did you guys know the first insurance holder company was Benjamin fucking Franklin in the United States? He's the one that brought insurance to America. I fucking hate insurances. I hate car insurance. I hate all that shit. But we have to have some type of liability protections against if I hit you on the road, I got to be able to pay.
I agree with you, Mel. But to a point, to a point.
I mean, you hate the concept of insurance.
That's what I was going to say.
I just hate the idea that insurance is like usually weaponized. Like, okay, so like for example, I really fucking hate mentioning this because it's fucking. I just hate doing it. Okay, so like I am a trans person. I have a technically pre-existing condition. There is a bunch of drugs that I gotta take. That if I just stop taking them, I'll get real sick, probably die. Bad things can happen. Need it to live. It's actually essential for me to exist as a human being. But insurance companies, due to pressure by their constituents, their governments, or whoever, can pressure people into not giving people like me those kinds of access to insurance. Like surgeries are considered cosmetic, but then like what if you need surgery? Because every time you go outside, people shit talk you. You might get hate crimed. Like you literally have to get a surgery for survival, and yet they call it cosmetic, and it's not sponsored. So like insurance companies are incredibly predatory. Like
can I go a little further for you?
Sure.
So the VA, when I first got discharged, rated that my heart disability was only 30%, i.e. 30% capacity of a problem. They use a scale, and they give you 10% for an anxiety disorder that's attributed to a 30% heart condition that they don't have all the answers for yet because they don't want to admit that the paperwork's there. I'm giving you factual stuff right now.
Oh, I agree.
It's no different. It's no different in the government. They grade things, right? It's even though you say you hate insurance companies, the universal health care that they're modeling works off the VA, and the VA does the same thing to every veteran. They first look at your symptoms and they'll go, "Oh, this doctor says it's this," right? Then you go, hey, hold up. Why am I still passing out while I'm trying to walk down the street? Why am I just randomly doing this or that? And then they reevaluate you with a different doctor, or they put you through a different exam. And then all of a sudden they acknowledge, oh, we fucked up. You're 70% and this is 100%. Like the fact that we have government, a board of, I'm sorry, my mic just hit, a board of 6 people that will sit there and dictate what you get service for, is what you guys are advocating for when you talk about universal health care.
Well,
instead of a free market.
I wasn't advocating. I was basically just using an anecdote to say that like insurance is part of this, like that insurance system is just as much involved in the VA. And it's not the fault of necessarily like the act of having insurance, but it's the entire institution. It doesn't matter whether you're a trans person who's extremely marginalized or generally like a white cis person. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have this random alarm.
Like, do you want me to like trade horror stories with like the private insurance companies?
No, like, can I jump in? I really want to jump in.
That's fine. All I was saying is like it doesn't matter what side of the ladder you are on, whether you are on someone who needs healthcare, like that is a marginalized person, or whether someone who is less marginalized. It fucks all of us over. It's the very institution that needs to be reformed or completely changed.
I'm saying if we're allowed to have our own medical accounts and we are able to dictate that market and don't need insurance,
the market's not going. If there's no oversight, the market does nothing for us. Like you're advocating.
Insurance is not oversight. I'm saying we don't need insurance. All we need is our money and a free market system in the medical arena.
Bullshit. All right.
No, that's incredibly bullshit.
We gotta
because
go
what if someone decides that?
Okay. Got to go down the line. There's other people who want to comment on that specific comment. So, Counter, you were next in line.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So okay. This is really frustrating for me personally, and I think we can all agree on the following statement, which is your suffering does not exclude my suffering, and my suffering does not exclude your suffering. So we can start with that. But that being said, the fucking 19th century was not a fucking golden era where Americans were doing fucking everything awesome. The 1920s and the 1930s were not a fucking golden era where everything was going fucking awesome. We had the fucking Dust Bowl. We had mass unemployment from industrial shifts. We had people basically losing their fingers to fucking pickling jars. So I don't look at the pre-central banking or pre-fiat currency as some kind of fucking golden age. And frankly, I think it's a little ridiculous. So just to fucking nail this shit down the head. No, we don't necessarily just need our money back to us and private markets to dictate that shit, because as Mel is going to say, and I'm sorry for jumping in, but there are some people who are not going to be net payers into the system, and there's going to be no market-based solution that's going to be interested in insuring them or taking care of them. RedNeQ, you have a heart condition. Mel is trans. I'm a healthy, able-bodied with relatively shitty pain issues, white man who's worked a majority of my life without fucking disability. I am going to be a net payer. You are going to be a net taker. They are going to take care of me better than they're going to take care of you. And that's just the way the fucking system is. We need to be in a pooled system where even the people who are most fucked up in our country get taken care of. And that's why the government needs to be involved in order to guarantee those fucking services to people who are underserved. That's their fucking role. Finally, talking about like being fucking dependent on government, government is just an extension of community. So it can be fucked up and it can be shitty and it can suck and the VA can fucking suck ass, but it's an extension of us. It is our people. We make the rules. We form the system and we can decide it. And final point, we don't have to go to government delivered healthcare. We don't have to have all the doctors be government employees making $40K a fucking year for a job that should be paying $200K. We can go to multi-payer like Canada does, where you basically have a baseline of fucking healthcare that's provided, including trans healthcare. And then if you want to be a fucking rich motherfucker and buy your elite level services, then you can buy your elite level services.
Yeah, I don't understand why that needs to be like. I guess counterpoints when you talk about the 19th century and early 20th, right? Like not referring to it as the golden age. Like I get that was all pre-industrial revolution, so we don't have a lot of the modern technologies and modern conveniences that we have today, right? But from a governmental standpoint, we actually saw the most rise in the value of our currency during that time. Before we had.
How did the average person live?
But yeah, but he's saying
they literally were
besides the modern day.
Weren't they fucking peasants?
What? Peasants?
Yeah.
Like, come on, how much about American history do you actually know?
Fuckloads.
Really? So are you aware that there were trolley tracks that you could go from New York to San Francisco before the big oil like there was big five companies that fucking bought up everything and tore up all the tracks and they gave us these fucking diesel engine powered buses? Are you aware of that?
Are you aware that if I took a drink at a water fountain, the shit
were you aware that
me?
Joe Louis was not allowed on the train?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. Look, I'm completely not surprised considering that he hadn't been squirted out by then. So, that being said,
no, but this is a point. This is an exact point. This is analogous. Joe Louis would be underserved in this scenario. So just because shit like existed didn't mean that people had access. Same thing with Mel right here. So fucking Mel is trans. She's not going to get the care that she needs in a fucking like in a libertarian anarcho-capitalist utopia. It's not going to fucking happen.
No, but if we've got to deal with the system that we've got to deal with right now, right, there's no point in trying to fucking piggyback like all these other smaller issues when if you really wanted to actually tackle this issue, you do it directly at the source of income for the individual rather than trying to cater create all this government administration so that we can continue to go through all the checks that we go through at the VA, right? Because all that's administrative that has cost, right? So if you really want to solve the problem, you need to get to the root, and income or a UBI would be the actual way to do that instead of trying to conquer all these other problems around it.
Well, I don't
understand.
Kind of
fucked up that you get to decide what counts as smaller issues.
Yeah, but under critical, what I don't understand, because I'm a Republican as well. I have to say it's
subcategory of a main issue.
But critical. So I'm a Republican here. I got to say this points. So why, when it comes to military-industrial complex,
my mic was muted.
Republicans never talk about this bureaucracy, and then when I say we could take the concept of what we've done to build our military, we can take the concept what we do with military contracts, we do with vehicles, we can take that concept of building then nobody on the Republican side says, hey, that's a good idea. Our military is the best in the world. Why can't we have the best medical industry in the world? And yeah, there is going to be bureaucracy, but that's with anything. There's bureaucracy at your work. People get fired for bullshit because someone doesn't like you. That doesn't mean the whole company's bad. That means there's a bad person in the company.
And Dylan, I just want to hit this point before I cede the floor. I'll totally cede the floor.
Okay, yeah.
So basically, my response to that, CTV, is basically most of the people on the right here, including myself, like I'm a mixed economy capitalist, but I think we're all capitalists. And in that spirit, you are always looking to reduce costs. As an employee, my business is paying me exactly enough to keep me around and not a dime fucking more. And if they thought that they could fucking cut my salary at all, they fucking would. I work service, retail, restaurant, bartender. They know that there are leagues, millions of people who will work for near slave wages in this country because there is no alternative option. So final point, and then I'll shut the fuck up. Just because the government isn't your friend doesn't mean that your boss is. And I think we need to realize that as a country.
Okay, okay. We have two people waiting who have raised their hand. Joe, you really wanted to talk, but Surfs was first. Surfs, do you want to give Joe the floor, or what you want to go first? Quick.
I cede the floor to no one.
Okay.
Except for Joe.
I can't even get on the train either. God damn it.
Yeah, no, okay. Joe, go nuts.
Yeah, you go, Joe.
Oh, you can go? Jeez, I'm glad to be on the train now.
I was joking. Yeah.
All right. So a few things. Because all right, I want to. Can we participate in the thought experiment for a second?
Oh yeah, let's go.
10 minutes. Okay. So CTV acknowledges that like the tackling of problems, and I want to see how you would tackle this problem, right? So RedNeQ, you argued that you want small government, right? So how do you stop this feedback loop? If you live in an area and your houses are nice, that means you have pretty high property tax. If you have high property tax, you have better schools. If you have better schools, then you're going to have better housing. And if you have better housing, you're going to have higher property tax. And by having higher property tax, you're going to have better schools. How do we stop the housing to schooling feedback loop without having a large government?
Bootstraps. I'm being sarcastic, but just work harder.
Just work.
Just Wikipedia it.
And again, I'm being genuine here. Like I want to see like
this, right? The fucking government has ballooned to this fucking deal, right? It's gotten so fucking big now that we're like, well, shit. At some point, we might want to reduce the cost of it. We might want to reduce the sphere of influence of it so that we can be able to be free in our individual fucking lives, right? We can't do that all at fucking once, but we need to have the conversation of us reducing it. But whenever we go to talk to anybody on the left, the only thing that they want to do is continue the fucking balloon. Well, we saw.
Can I give you a Eurocuck argument? Can I seriously give you a Eurocuck argument that was like seriously convincing for me?
To the property tax loop, or just the
yeah. So actually, I can make it work in the property tax loop. Okay. So libertarians, including myself, because I was a libertarian for a while, we often think of freedom as in like the ability to do things. So the government is not prohibiting from exercising my freedom of speech. The government is not prohibiting me from what kind of weapons I can keep. The government is very limited in the way that it can prosecute crime. That way I can't be wrongfully convicted, all that kind of shit. It's all about limiting the government so I have individual autonomy. But what is the point of being free from the government if you can never take a vacation? What is the point of being free if you can't afford to see a doctor? What is the point of being free if you can't travel across the world? What is the point of being free if you basically have to chain your ass to a fucking 7-Eleven and work 60 hours a week in order to make enough money in order to stay in a fucking apartment so you can eat fucking Taco Bell and play a fucking PlayStation? Now, I'll admit that Taco Bell is fucking good and that PlayStations are fucking awesome, but that is not a well-lived life. And at some point, the economy has to fucking serve the people. I'm not with Mel. I'm not with the serfs, where I think that like, I really do think you can tank the economy. I think there's a shitload about lefty economics that scares the fuck out of me. But I'm also sick of people using the fucking excuse that like, if we engage in any amount of liberalism or progressivism or leftism whatsoever, we're going to turn into authoritarian fucking Russia and we're just going to start executing people for fucking.
Well, yeah, that's what I say.
Where are we at right now, CounterPoints? Where are we at right now?
Guys, everybody.
Well, points. I
every
want to make the
loyal.
point.
I am a kind soul tonight. I am a soul full of joy and happiness.
Generous God.
Ready to do TOS things to people who don't follow the rules, okay? So next in line, and they have been waiting very patiently, is the Surf, so I'm going to throw it over to them to make a comment.
Wait, but what the fuck? Like, I had a question.
Yes,
Joe. This time I will not take the floor.
Joe, I will.
Gracious before.
Okay,
he
Joe.
did ask a question.
Joe,
The two of us, neither one of us got the answer, and now we're moving on.
It's okay. It's going to actually be pretty
Give me
related.
a second.
I'll quickly say this, right?
Okay. I'm no longer going to be nice in Kumbaya. I've learned tonight that panel guests are not guests. They're your enemy as a panel host. They are all cockroaches. They are gum you are trying to remove from the bottom of your shoe. And if anybody would have listened to me, or let me finish, I was going to give it to the Serfs because they haven't got to make a comment in a while. Then I was going to bring it back to the conversation so you can answer the question. They have just been waiting for 20 minutes, and they've been first in line for 20 minutes, so it's only fair that they get to talk. So, Serfs, bring it back.
Okay, cool. So, RedNeQ, what you were talking about when you were explaining how people were actually trying to make you, qualify for different things, whether or not it had to do with your heart or the different kinds of PTSD you were experiencing, that to me screams the problem with having the profit motive involved in healthcare. And that goes across the board. So as long as people are going to profit, and I'm not trying to go, full on socialist or communist on you. I'm just saying, as long as we have a profit incentive, you're going to see shady shit like that, where insurance companies will try to one-up each other. That's where you see death panels, where people are basically going to ask for things like pre-existing conditions, where other countries don't say the words pre-existing conditions. They say things like, what exactly is your ailment? Because we're going to try and help you, because that's just the way the system works. The second thing is, as far as goes, what are we talking about? Big government. When it comes to big government, the United States has enormous government when it comes to things like the military. All right. Mm-hmm. When it comes to things like the military, they don't have any problem spending $800 million, $900 million on something like that. And then when it comes to keeping people alive, that suddenly is a how are we going to pay for it question. Whereas I don't think you need that much money spent on the military. I'm not even going down with the idea of fiat currencies. We're not going to get into that. But just the idea of why do we need this much money spent on something when it's already been spent more than the next, 8 or 9 or 10 countries combined. So shave a little money off that and then put a little bit of that money towards keeping human beings alive. And then you can use them for whatever you want. If they want to work in factories, they want to do capitalism, that doesn't matter. It'll be for the benefit of all Americans.
No, you don't have to shave it off the top, though, Lance.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say you don't even have to shave off the top of the military. I mean, this is the problem. Is that we need to build the infrastructure. We need to start building it. This idea that we need to as a Republican, I'm tired of this argument. I've been hearing it for 17 years of, let's just move around the money, and it's like sometimes you need to just start to spend the money and then make it's an investment in our healthcare system. It's an investment, and it's not going to happen overnight. And this is where I have totally backlash against the left, because they act like it's going to happen overnight. And we need to make the investment now, so in 10, 20 years, we can look back and go, oh, man, that's great. We made that investment. We built up a great infrastructure for the medical system and mental health.
You just saying when we should start? I agree. Start now. You can
No.
I'm
saying, but when you say, we'll shave off the top of the budget, I'm just saying we don't need to do that.
There's tons of different things you could do. Hey, you know what? I want to stop welfare. I want to stop handouts. I think handouts are a terrible thing. Why are we giving these massive handouts to places like Amazon? Why are we giving them out to these massive corporations? Why are we giving them all this free subsidies? That's ridiculous to me.
Here's the thing, but I don't mind. I don't mind. But here's the thing: I don't mind when they get a subsidy when they're actually doing something for a community. The problem is they have no accountability. They say they're going to do something and they don't do it. I don't mind handouts going. Like my buddy Bradley, God bless his soul, he passed away. His brother got paid by the government to take care of Bradley. He got in a car accident. He couldn't move, couldn't do anything.
Oh, that's not so that's fine. Welfare. That's individual welfare. I'm fine with that. I say more of that.
So that's good welfare, but the problem is we've totally mixed in all these things into the discussion of welfare that I hear the right say things that I know they don't believe. And I hear you saying things I know you don't believe. Because if I told you Amazon was going to do something good and it's provable, like we've seen it, we've means tested it, you would totally be fine with them getting a tax break. I mean, why wouldn't you be if they're going to do something good?
Oh well, okay. So Amazon already makes hand over fist. They're making like
I
you're
know,
talking
but-
about an individual who makes more money than any other human being on the
I
planet.
know, but-
he's doing completely fine. Even if you want to tell me that Amazon is doing something that's great for society, that's cool. That means they're making more money than anyone else, so they don't need tax breaks. They don't need exemptions. They're winning. They won.
But what if
capitalism.
they say
they're
but
the
what if
final
they-
boss? They're
I know,
Shang
but
Tsung.
Lance,
It's fine.
Lance,
They're going to be totally
Lance,
okay.
what if they say they won't build there? Then that community loses out. That's my point. Is that we can
Well, then
come
they're
to
holding
the
that
middle.
community hostage.
Well, no,
them
that's
saying
but
we're
that's
not going to give you
business.
jobs
Well,
unless
they
you
are
allow us.
logic, right?
But that's
I
business.
agree
though.
with you. That's capitalism, baby.
But
that's how it
no,
works.
that's not capitalism. That's business.
Loyal,
That's
that's
business.
like,
Yeah,
like
they're
this is
intertwined,
this
right?
is something that
Right, it's
frustrates
clearly
me. Like, okay,
exploitation.
like,
There's multiple
I
people
don't-
talking. There's multiple people trying to talk at once. CTV has been trying to comment on this for longer than Mel was, so I'm gonna give it to CTV. It's only fair, and he hasn't really talked much to the subject. Then we're gonna probably try to bring it at some point back to Joe and Red because they still want to answer the segment from before if they're still interested in doing so. CTV.
Like corporate welfare needs to fucking stop, right? Amazon doesn't need shit. I don't give a fuck about Amazon, especially when I'm armed with the knowledge that what they do is exploit our postal system, right? Which is supposed to be for all Americans, right? They'll take big, huge pallets of fucking packages, drop them off at the post office, and then the post office is supposed to fucking divvy them out and send them out to all their fucking properties instead of keeping that shit inside the private market, which is exactly where that fucking shit's supposed to be, instead of taking advantage of the government system, which is supposed to be for the people, right? And that's clearly what Amazon has been doing. So, like, when I got a package came in down here where I'm at, it took 3 fucking days for it to get to me because the post office was fucking taking advantage of it. Or you go back to 2008 with these fucking different companies that got bailed out. There doesn't need to be any fucking corporate welfare, right? If this is a free market system, if you are mismanaging your business, fuck you, you're gone. Like, I got zero patience for that kind of shit.
I want to hear from Mel.
Mel, you will get to comment, then we'll bring it back to Joe and Joe and Red right after.
I mean, I'm not really like peeved about the necessarily like, the nuance part of the discussion. I guess more or less like the framing of this conversation. Like, healthcare is a fucking human right. Like, if I don't have it, I'm pretty much screwed. I don't know why it needs to fall into the market. I don't like the fact that like my very existence is being determined by people with large amounts of fucking money that I literally can't see because I don't have access to that social capital, nor will I ever get there because of how how all these institutions and all these things are structured in the United States. Like, the amount of barriers that I have comparatively to most people in order to access certain resources are like more monumental. And like, that's the reason why most of us die or don't make it to certain ages, because it's almost impossible for us to get there. And so it just seems really like disingenuous to frame the entire debate about healthcare as like, is the free market going to take care of X, Y, and Z? Well, they're going to take care of certain people, but the only people that they're going to take care of are the people with the most financial and political power, i.e. corporations. Like, corporatism is a big symptom of laissez-faire, like free market economics. Like, I don't know, man. Ankapisthan's a pretty shit idea, and that's just what seems to be like what a lot of people are like advocating in this room. So I don't know.
Okay.
I just don't like my existence being like fucking like my existence is already floundered in our like Obamacare private healthcare system. I do not want to leverage that in a fucking Ancapistan world. Like, that's fucking ridiculous and just poignant as fuck.
Okay, next we have Joe and Red, so we'll probably start that
I can
off.
answer Joe's question.
Okay.
And tie it in with the medical and counterpoint. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. You're an ANCAP. You're not a conservative. Get over it. You're a fucking straight up ANCAP. You need to talk to. You need to talk to.
Totally agree.
CTV. Who's you need to talk to? What's our good buddy that's an ANCAP that's always on those other panels?
Last username.
Last username. You and last username need to have a conversation because he almost flipped me to a full ANCAP. You are a fucking ANCAP. Okay, back to Joe, and I'm also going to help Mel. So Joe, you're talking about the disparity between, i.e., the inner city, assuming. Let's talk about just the inner city, the lower income areas, and then the suburbs. That's an easier example, right? Let's not even talk about rural America because that's a whole other shit show.
I mean, we can frame it however you like, but yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, is that easy enough for everybody else? Does that help validate what you were asking?
If your property tax, I'll make it as simple as possible. If your property taxes are high, then your schools are good.
Yep.
Does not matter where you live.
But usually that's in the suburbs comparative to big city.
Or
sections of big
high.
cities. Some
Again,
you're right. Like New
if
York
your property taxes
Okay.
are high, your schools are good.
Okay. And then when I talk about the medical side of it, the insurance game, when I talk about I don't want insurance, it's that same type of thing. You know, for all of Trump's failures, I'll tell you guys this, just from anecdotal Andy again. When he actually forced the choice program to be used and allowed by us, it opened the door for me to be able to go to private healthcare with a voucher that's basically like an insurance card that's guaranteed by the government. So that same system would work in the education piece if you give a kid a voucher to be able to make that choice of where they want to go. And I'm saying the same thing to Mel. You have a certain condition that is yours. I have certain conditions that are mine. We all have agreed that our oppressions and limitations and disabilities are our own. Would it not be better for me to be able to go find a specialist that helps just that? I.e., why aren't there transgender doctors that are dedicated just to that field? Because of restrictions from fucking government. You need to be able to have a free market system that allows them to.
Not government.
Hang on, Mel. The free market system, even in the medical world, could allow targeted Planned Parenthoods, targeted transgenderhoods, targeted redneck hoods. I mean, literally, we all could get our own privatized healthcare for our own selves with a market and a voucher.
Dude, I don't want to be atomized and have like a fucking trans-only clinic. That's weird. I just want fucking healthcare. I want to be treated like a human being. Like, I don't want this like weird atomized individualistic private health. Like, because what if someone who owns that kind of healthcare is a corporation and doesn't actually have our best interest in mind? Like, then
you don't have to go shop there. You can go somewhere else.
Okay, so then
you have to go to Walmart. You don't have to go to.
Sorry.
Free market. Look, when you
Mel,
have
your mic's out, Mel. Your mic's out, Mel.
When you have government markets, when you have the government that controls it, I try to give you all examples.
Mel,
all the way
your
around.
mic is out. Your mic is out, Mel. You're talking and no one can hear you.
Yeah, currently I can't hear you, Mel.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
And Joe, I just want to say, Joe, the way I would solve it is a voucher program, and then also let's say, because I have heard the people come back and say, well, what if there's not a school near you? I think that school should be able to apply for the difference in funding. Let's say the voucher's given and then the parent's like, well, I have nowhere to go. Well, in that case, that school should be given preferential treatment, given a little bit more funding, because they've showed even with a voucher, they can't go somewhere else. So I think a combination, this is the problem again with Republicans. It's not just a voucher program. We need to have a little bit more funding in areas where voucher programs want to work.
No, Loyal. Well, but that's where I was saying the VA has been funded and underfunded and funded and underfunded. And the majority of these areas that are having the hardest problems, these low income areas that have low property tax based and have these horrible schools, they're predominantly democratically ran and have already tried the big government throw more money at it. And
I grew up in one of those that was all Republican. Eastern Kentucky, my dude. Rural Kentucky, Appalachia. That is an entirely Republican district.
Appalachia is and again, I said I didn't even want to bring up the whole rural America portion.
Yeah, because
that's a whole different beast, right? That's because of you got limitation on mileages, you got spread so far, people spread out so far.
We pay, like, as a percentage of GDP, Americans pay roughly 24% of GDP into healthcare in a private system. Fucking public systems like Canada and the UK, they pay 17% for similar care and similar outcomes.
Okay.
So do
you live in Canada?
You keep pushing.
Do you live in Canada?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
I do.
But you keep pushing for efficiency. Why don't we just fund these fucking things?
Who lives in Canada? Serve?
I do, yes, and I can vouch for that. I mean, at the end of the day, don't you want to look at a system?
Hang on,
not just Canada.
But
yeah,
I can't. Everybody's talking at once. Both of you are talking at once, so I can't hear what's even happening. I don't even know the argument that's being currently had now. So this is.
I was trying to make a statement, and I asked if he was in Canada, and then he said yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Serfs, you're gonna say what you were trying to say, and then after Red, you're gonna say what you're gonna say, and then we're gonna try to move on to the next topic because we're actually running out of time on this one.
Yeah, no worries. To CounterPoint's point, I think, and I'm hoping we all agree on this, we probably want to look at what is the best way to do blank And if we found a better way, a more efficient way, especially one that's both cheaper and benefits more people, we should emulate that. So in the case of the United States, if it just comes down to the fact that they are spending more money and getting worse results or less results for the money put in, then why not emulate somewhere that is spending less money and getting more results, aka supporting and keeping alive more human beings? And yes, if he's referring to a different system like Canada, that would be an example.
So doesn't the 17% that he says that Canada's spending on your healthcare, basic healthcare, and you actually have to have extra healthcare that you pay for through your jobs?
No. Your job can give you... Hold on. I'm going to finish this. Your job can give you additional healthcare if you want, but there's a baseline healthcare that every single Canadian gets across the board, which will cover most everything except for your mouth. Your mouth and prescriptions. Those are the two things that I'm
It's basic healthcare, right? That's what I just said. It's basic health, just like Medicare. You don't get a dental plan. You don't get. It's basic. It's the same as Medicare.
Better than our shit.
If I needed surgery tomorrow,
it's not better than our shit.
It absolutely is. Oh my god, yes, I can tell you across the board. Now, if you want anecdote Andes, here's a handful for you. If I go into tomorrow, I'm like, oh, there's a pain in my testicle. I wonder what's happening. I can walk into a walk-in clinic within a week. I'll get an ultrasound afterwards. I will get surgery booked within 6 months. That's all free.
Yeah,
every single thing I just mentioned free.
Every
step I've just mentioned is going to be $1,000 to $2,000 to $5,000. If you have like a broken finger and you're worried about that, and you're like, I don't want to get an X-ray. What if I have to spend like $2,000, $3,000? That's all free. It's all free all the time.
What about cancer?
Every single day.
What about
cancer? If you have cancer, you get surgery for that. Absolutely, you do. You get chemotherapy, all the same things. You have, look at the rates of death in Canada compared to other countries, other developed nations. We have comparable rates.
My buddy that lives in Ottawa said that if he didn't have his wife's insurance through her company that she has, he wouldn't have been able to get the services as fast as he did.
It took too long, yeah.
As fast.
Okay. So while I'll contest that one anecdote with just the overarching theory that most Canadians
I'm just giving your antidote back one antidote as well. I'm just saying.
Sure. Okay. So then let's just talk about the actual statistics. Then across the board, Canada, when you compare it to other countries, especially the developed nations, they overwhelmingly have survival rates comparable to the United States for things like cancer, except it's all paid for through our system. You don't have to pay anything out of pocket.
And can I anecdote Andy this right now?
Well, okay, you say this, and then we're done. We're moving into Andy's statements, and then we're moving on to the next thing.
Okay, anecdote fucking Andy over here. I had a fucking like toe infection because I basically stepped on a fucking root outside, and I didn't go to the the fix it clinic or whatever because I didn't want to drop $80 because I didn't want to fuck with my grocery budget this week. So I basically self-taught, and it worked out, but that's fucking great. But I'm well-to-do. I have a actual middle-class job with benefits and insurance. And you know how much my annual deductible is? It's $3,000 fucking dollars. I have to go out of pocket $3,000 before an insurance company kicks in, despite the fact that I'm paying $500, like probably $500 a month. And on top of that, my employer is matching that shit. So basically, I'm paying fuckloads of money. I'm getting almost nothing in return, and I can't use the services that I need to use in order to take care of my family because it's going to take food out of my mouth. Fuck this system. The fucking rich motherfuckers who are profiting off of my labor can pay higher taxes into the fucking government that can provide everybody their health care, including Mel, including you, including me, including Loyal, including Serfs, including CTV, Joe Lewis, and Jangles. Except for the people who aren't citizens. Fuck you, Serfs. You stay in Canada.
Okay,
fair.
So we're going to do. We're going to.
That can be my closing statement.
Okay, you close. Great. Everybody gets 30 seconds for the closing statement because we're really running out of time. So if you don't finish in 30 seconds, you will just be muted and you can talk to literally nobody. Okay, so we're going to start in the top left-hand corner with Jangles. You got 30 seconds. I will count in my head.
Okay, I ain't no shit about fuck. You shouldn't listen to me on anything related to economics. I ain't no shit about fuck. It's not my area of expertise. Talk to me about like science and shit.
Okay, done. Loyal.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it comes down to this. Straight up, simply. Stop thinking that you can just throw money at the current system we have, Medicare for all. That shit's not going to fucking work. It's not. We need to rethink about how we're doing it. The military-industrial complex did it. Stop fucking thinking the way you've been thinking. If we take the concept of the military-industrial complex and apply it to the medical system over 10, 20...
Okay, next is going to be RedNeQ.
So whenever you talk about big systems, big governments, and all the democratic societies that always want to push all of this, just take a look at all the cities that are ran by them for the past 60, 80 years and why they have the most problems. Detroit, Chicago, Illinois, St. Louis. Just go down the list. We'll just look at those problems. And that was an interruption. And then what you can do is also take a look at how government runs everything else in life. Take the government out of it. Get more free control of it yourself.
Next is Joe.
You can't, you need the government to do things. Look, at the end of the day, my district can solve the funding problem in an instant. We have a $4 million infrastructure to fix roads. In the past 10 years, we've used 20,000 of those dollars. It could take $749,000 to make sure every teacher can have utilities during COVID, and they don't do that. You need government, but you need oversight. And the fact that you can't answer something as simple as the school property tax feedback loop is very telling.
Okay, next is going to be Counterpoints.
I already did mine.
Oh yeah, you already did yours. It's going to be Surfs.
The concept of picking yourself up from your bootstraps helps a little bit when your parents are the ones who have bought you boots, and or you don't happen to be disabled or someone who's unable to be able to pick themselves up from their bootstraps. So personal responsibility, all that kind of stuff, it doesn't apply to the whole world at the same time. So at the same time, I think we should try and take care of each other, especially the bare minimum being healthcare for everybody.
Okay, next is Mel.
Yeah, sorry, like my Discord crashed. I have no idea what happened, so I don't know if I was cut off mid-sentence or whatever. I guess I'll just round it off. Yeah, like I just think that healthcare is a human right. There's a lot of things that are human rights that are being completely obfuscated by a government institution and political parties, and we should just and these are bare minimum services like housing, food, all these things. So I don't know. We have the money to pay for it. Moving it from problematic policing all the way to the military. Just
okay. Next is going to be CTV.
Yeah, the Democrats and their authoritarianism is the fucking problem, right? Serge pointed out a really great point of fatherless homes, right? That was instituted by the war on drugs, right? So let's get rid of that shit to start, and then maybe we could do something else from there. Healthcare is not a human right. No human is born with the right to somebody else's service. The only instances that is an exception to that would be lawyers because they're trying to work inside the government.
Okay, I might do that for all ending statements from now on. That gets people to make their points speedy and they don't fucking drag their words and make amazing. It's great. It's wonderful. Okay, we're going to go into the last one, which is quite simple. Recently, Puerto Rico had a referendum within the state, and it came out with, and this was one that was not boycotted like the last one, and it came out with the majority of Puerto Ricans voting for statehood. This was a non-binding referendum. It's not like this is going to lead to them being a state, obviously. And there are some activists that have a problem with the election that took place, but it is an issue that has again reached the news. So the question is simple: should Puerto Rico become a state? This will be the last topic of the night. We have about 1 hour to discuss it. We're going to do again 30-second intros because we don't have much time left. I'm going to start in the top left-hand corner with Jangles.
I think it sounds neat.
Wonderful. LoyalLogic.
Yeah, I'm actually friends with Pixie on here, and it's actually talked with her on her stream multiple times, and I just think that leave it up to them and then let us decide. I just think on our end, we're not going to have enough political will. I'm really not against it, but it's like, I just don't see the point, but we'll see how it goes. If it happens, it happens. The debt argument doesn't make sense. I hate that argument from any side.
Next is going to be RedNeQ.
Sí, muy está bien. Let's go. They're familia. Let's go. Because there's no reason. They vote, they serve, pay taxes. I've always been about any district that we fucking have colonized and basically folded under our wing. It includes the Dominican Republic, right? Some of the areas of the Bahamas. I mean, did I say that right? No, Bermuda. Wait.
No, you said it right.
I said it right. Yeah. I mean, why are we not? We're already subsidizing them through everything else. Legal statehood if they want it. Let's go.
Okay. Next is going to be Joe Lewis.
America needs to stop its fucking toxic relationship with Puerto Rico. The people have decided 4 times now that they should be a state. They are Americans and deserving that choice to be respected. We cannot let one court decision to continue to determine if the 14th Amendment extends to Puerto Ricans. It fucking does. Newsflash. If people are concerned about political power and disaster capitalism, politicians, Democrat and Republican alike, should have never skirted the idea of let the people decide. It's politically advantageous to make Puerto Rico a state. Whoever does that has a monopoly.
Okay, next is going to be Counterpoints.
I don't want to fuck up the flag of the United States, so I say we add a whole bunch of shit. So District of Columbia, U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, Puerto Rico. And then just to round it off and make it a nice even number so we can have 60 states instead of 50, I say we have Mexico take a vote, see if they want to join the United States. We annex all the way down to Panama. We break it up into, state-sized chunks, make it an even 60. And then at that point, we can also take on the war on drugs at that point, too.
Okay.
And own Canada. Don't forget Canada. We could get them to annex too.
Nah, I don't want serfs down here.
We're gonna throw it over to the serfs.
I haven't gotten to say this yet. I agree with everything RedNeQ said. So I'll just leave it at that.
Simple as that.
It's pretty based.
Next, we're gonna throw it over to CTV.
I think that Puerto Ricans have been doing a lot of moving from Puerto Rico to Florida. So I think that RedNeQ makes a great point about the people, but I think that it's less about the people and more about the land and the government and the debt that they do have on. So LoyalLogic, I understand I understand that, right? But for me, it comes down to recognizing that land and government are separate from those actual Boricuas.
Okay, and to finish this intro segment off, it's going to be Mel.
They're colonized people. They've been subjugated by the United States for over 200 years. They've voted several times in their history to just become a state. They operate within the United States. They're citizens. Let's just give them fucking statehood, man. I don't know why this is such a hard argument. If the people demand something, fucking let them have it, dude. I thought that was what Americans were about, and I'm the fucking communist here.
Okay, it looks like everybody but possibly CTV agrees on this.
Echo chamber.
So the question is, CTV, do you agree on this? Yes or no? Do you believe it should be a state? Because this will determine whether we go to the next topic, and we'll skip intros for the next topic because we're running out of time. If you all agree, because if you all agree, I'm not going to circle jerk this. Okay.
The only thing that I would say is that while I understand that the Puerto Rican people have been voting on this, the last vote that they did, the last referendum, the voter turnout was way less than it had ever been before.
I was going to mention that as well.
Right. So to me,
they're voting on it right now, though. So that's
but the voter turnout was low.
So
it wasn't the last one, but in this upcoming election, we should pay attention to that. It is the will of the people, right? So
CTV.
It indicates to me one or two things: either A, that there's been a less of an interest in the voter base, or a large majority of the voter base has actually moved out of Puerto Rico, right? And considering the hurricane that just went through there, it may have been more advantageous for these people, since they actually could just transit straight to the United States, not to have to really go through any borders, to have done that. So then the responsible decision from federal government's point of view, with the amount of stuff that is going on in Puerto Rico, is it better to take on everything that they have to begin with, because we are already subsidizing a lot of their things, or are we just going to let them continue, try to create, because we actually took all of the business investments that were in Puerto Rico out, and that's what ultimately ended up driving down a lot of the economic activity that was going on the island, right? So it's how do we balance that? Do we actually want to fuck up the flag counterpoints? That's a great point. The only way I could do that would be maybe is if we combine New Hampshire and Vermont right off the top. Just say, boom, y'all already go.
I gotta push.
Okay,
back
so
on
look, I mean,
okay, so it looks like we have some wait before anything happens. We have disagreement, and it's one person who disagrees with everyone else. So while I'm gonna let this happen, just know that I'm gonna do everything possible to make sure CTV has a ground playing field here. So what that means is I'm gonna kick all of you out except for one person. I think that's a fair decision to do. No, what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to, obviously, if it gets too brutal, I'm gonna make sure CTV gets a decent amount of speaking time. So he's probably gonna speak the most of the topic, obviously. Just want to make that clear straight from the get-go. Joe, you wanted to go in. Joe said it, and then right now, RedNeQ, you're next.
Yeah.
Joe.
I don't believe everybody's performative idea that Puerto Rico wants to be a state. So I'm calling everybody out on their bullshit here. I'm going to make this very fucking clear. The reason why we don't want Puerto Rico to be a state is because America is too fucking racist and not willing to acknowledge their racism. It's not about the fucking flag. It's not about any type of reason. It's literally about the American government not doing a shit about minorities. We did it with fucking Hawaii, and we're doing it with Puerto Rico again. And here's the scary part. And this is what concerns me. This is what concerns me about this very, very deeply. The Republicans have been fucking Puerto Rico for fucking decades. And everything that you just mentioned, the idea of policies coming out of there is directly from the Republican Party.
No, it's
it can
not.
Be traced
no,
right
it is
there.
not.
Let him
No,
finish.
it's not.
Wait. We gotta let him finish.
I come hot with the receipts, my friend. I come.
No,
hot
you're
with the
so you're
receipts.
saying the Democrats have not done anything.
Bullshit, Joe.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Democrats are not off the hook either. But when Republicans introduce these policies, this is where Republicans and Democrats are two sides of the same coin. However, Republicans, if they gave a shit, should call out other Republicans on this bullshit because they're the one introducing these policies. So my question is, why haven't Republicans called out other Republicans on their blatant xenophobia of Puerto Rico?
They don't want it because it's a Democratic state. That's why, because they mostly
it's
vote
a fucking
Democrat.
swing state. If Puerto Rico entered the fucking union, it'll be a fucking
I was gonna
swing
say
state. We
there's
can
an
see it in the election this year.
You look, hang on. You said it earlier. You fucking said it earlier. Whichever side does it will have a fucking monopoly. And you're asking why the Republicans haven't had balls? Because Trump is the very first fucking Republican who got more minority vote than any other fucking Republican ever.
Do not engage with that.
Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about Puerto Rico.
Look, Joe, back to the point of Puerto Rico, right? Back to the point of Puerto Rico. Because I'm not going to waste my fucking time or Dylan's or anybody else's on this panel talking about Trump. We're talking about fucking Puerto Rico, right? So, Joe, when you come out straight out the gate and you want to say racism, I got to say, brother, I think that's a narrative that you and the filter that what you keep seeing the world through, because the reality is that anybody that's in Puerto Rico, because it's a U.S. territory, can move to the United States and be able to conduct themselves as a fucking citizen. They can join the fucking military. So you say, oh, racism. Well, I think that's a personal filter that you have. Right, so
they can't vote on policies because they don't have representation
at a federal level, but they're more than able to handle things on their own.
That's why they need actual representation, because the very things that can protect their citizens, they can't even vote on. It's the exact same problem with DC.
The Democrats protected the Puerto Ricans so much that they hid the Republican sent goods and aid after the fucking hurricane. Let me know how that
No. The Jones Act, son. The Jones Act. Don't dismiss the Jones Act.
Warehouse is full. Warehouse is full of Democratic holding shit back.
Point here, right? A large portion of the it seems to be
They
that a
don't
large
give a
portion
fuck.
of the Puerto Rican community actually moved to Florida and into the United
Because
States.
the poverty rate is over 10% and 50%.
That's why. Fucking houses. What part of that are you not understanding? It's only natural that if somebody just lost their whole fucking house and they go, do I want to start over here where there's not very many jobs, or can I just move to Florida where there are more jobs?
Do you know why they're moving to Florida? Do you know why they're moving to Florida though? They're not just moving to Florida because of fucking like hurricanes. So the governor and the congressional commissioner of Puerto Rico are Republicans.
Hurricane that actually struck Puerto Rico, and it
Can you let me finish my fucking point, dude?
If you will not try to not talk about the point that we're talking about and make it like they didn't move here or move.
I'm trying to give you something that maybe a perspective that maybe you haven't heard. Okay. So Puerto Rico right now, like the primary people in their government that are leading it are Republicans. A lot of the people that have left Puerto Rico are Republicans. They go to Republican parts of Florida because they have the same good graces with those Republicans. It's coalition building power. That's why they're doing it. That's why Democrats don't leave Puerto Rico, because most of them are too poor enough to even leave the island. A lot of those Puerto Ricans that leave have Republican-backed money. This is a real fucking thing that happens. Like, it's the same thing with Venezuelans going against communism and moving to the United States. They do it because the Americans give them money to move. This is a thing our country has been doing. We give financial incentives to the parties that support us the most. And right now, a lot of Latin parts of America are swinging Republican. So that's where a lot of this influence and money is being dumped into. There is a bit of racism there. Joe was kind of right.
Puerto Ricans are getting support, but Democrat Puerto Ricans are not. Is that what you're saying?
Because they
can't leave.
They can't leave.
Okay,
they're getting black.
I'm gonna make it as clear as possible.
Who then is actually providing these funds to the Republican Puerto Ricans only and not to the Democrat Republicans? And why don't the Democrat Puerto Ricans have the same access? Is it strictly among party lines? Because if that's the case, then why doesn't the Democrat Party take the money that is taken in right now from hashtag Black Lives Matter and give it to these fucking people if they need it?
All right,
So there's a lot going on here. Near my
So
Okay,
there's a few
and also
unique
different parties
factors.
use different strategies too.
Yeah,
you have
there's
to
a few
remember that, right? Like
unique
the same thing as asking why don't Democrats do redlining, for example, right? Like different parties use different strategies.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe. I'll pass.
There's a few unique factors to the Puerto Rico problem, and it's very key because this is why I don't think people are actually equipped to think about statehood, and I think a vast majority of people who want it is performative. There's years of economic decline with no standing U.S. bankruptcy court laws for Puerto Rico, and then there's also hedge funds with the intent seeking to collect as much as they can through lawsuits. This is a country with over $100 million in debt, but you know what's crazy? They have universal health care. So there are things that Puerto Ricans are doing correct, but the biggest thing is they don't have a say in our politics.
Right.
So when through the so hold on, I'll be very quick. I'm almost done. So something like the Merchant Marine Act, which is something that directly affects Puerto Ricans in terms of getting actual aid during things like hurricanes or COVID-19, they can't get that. And even when it was introduced, they couldn't vote for that in the first place. So as like we brought up that they can vote, they can't vote. They can participate in the primary. That's well and good. But when they actually have influence on the country, they do not. But at the same time, this is a country that's this is a state, a potential state. They don't. They have a non-voting seat in Congress. They don't.
They still vote.
They don't. It's a non-voting seat. They don't vote. They don't vote.
You're a second-class citizen, right?
No correlation there. There's literally no correlation because.
So if there's
you sit in Congress and you can't vote.
So you think you guys really think that they had a seat in Congress? It's gonna make a difference.
Okay. Everybody, slow down. Everybody, this is getting heated very quickly for a room that is all supposedly agreeing on something. Okay, so I'm going to start writing down names. People, if you want to comment on something that's been said, raise your up. Counter is first. Counter gets it first. Anybody else want to put themselves in there? I'll put down Loyal. We're just going back to the trusty notebook. This is honestly the best thing I've ever introduced to the show. Is this little notebook right here? Helps give it some order. Anybody else? Anybody? Okay. And again, you can jump in. If
I'd like to hear from Jangles Science Blatt. Okay. He had some theories about neatness that I'd like to learn more about.
Okay, Jangles will be forced to be put on the list because I said so.
Nice, thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And Counter, you are first.
Yeah, so I just want to meme for a little bit because I'll be very brief though. I seriously think that Democrats really need to watch themselves when it comes to the Hispanic demographic, because when Republicans stop being racist towards Hispanic people, you guys are probably fucked. So that like Hispanics tend to be conservative. If Republicans start, basically going along with universal health care, some social welfare programs, if they still promote, liberty and free market capitalism, not free market capitalism, but mixed economy capitalism, like a whole bunch of other shit. Like, I mean, you got to watch the fuck out, because basically I seriously think I already see a lot of immigrants to the United States who basically, once they're second generation, they swap to Republicans. You got to watch that shit. So that's my meme, and I'm done memeing.
Yeah.
Joe, you can comment. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm so heated about this is because there's just a fundamental misunderstanding of what statehood would look like. Puerto Rico would get 2 senators and around 5 to 6 seats in the House. The problem is you don't just add seats. They would come from districts within the United States already. So we're not adding a number. We are redistributing the numbers so Puerto Rico gets representation. And for all of those flyover states that we talk about for Donald Trump, that terrifies them, because those are probably going to be the first ones they eye. They're not going to be eyeing California. They're not going to be eyeing Texas. They're going to be eyeing Minnesota. They're going to be eyeing
Can you add
Kentucky. What's that?
All right.
What happened? Yeah, go for a little.
Okay, so that's you hit it right on the nose, Joe. Has nothing to do with racism. It has to do with people are very nostalgic about the 50. Points is right about the 50 stars, but also people in certain states don't want to give up power because they don't want to. They're already small states. It has nothing to do with racism, and it has nothing to do with if you think that Puerto Rico somehow gets a seat, they're going to get more things. That's not going to happen. How's it working out for other states? You like the school system. It ain't helping, right, Joe? So like the racism stuff, I mean, I get, but you're seeing it through a lens that it's not getting us any closer. I'm totally for statehood, but I don't think it's going to happen because of the power structures here. And then some over in Puerto Rico. I've talked to Pixie about this. Pixie will tell you there's plenty of people in Puerto Rico, a lot, that don't want to stay. And guess what? They're regular, everyday people. They're not the rich people. Pixie will tell you, a lot of people just want to be Puerto Rican. They don't want to be American. And that's sometimes hard for people to realize that some people don't want to be a part of the shit show that is America. As much as I love it, we are a shit show sometimes. So I get what you're saying, Joe, but it comes down to succeeding power to people that aren't there. So that's
Hawaii,
it. The thing that's key here, though, like,
sorry, I was just going to say really quickly, Hawaii has a similar, like, it's a smaller cultural movement, but some Hawaiians are legit shit. Like, United States conquered us. We never asked to be a part of this shit.
Yeah.
Fuck the mainlanders. They're a bunch of fucking invaders. Let's do our own thing. And like, I know there's not like a whole lot of political oomph behind it, but I think it's interesting.
But it went away. Went
there-
away though. It used to be really a big movement, but as you said, like with Hispanics, as the generations go, then they assimilate. But I just think that we need to leave it up to the government there. If they decide it, if I see, because I've not seen any elections that's a good enough turnout for me to go, yeah, that is for sure. But I feel that one day they will become state. But until then, I just think, Joe, I get what you're saying, but saying racism, I just think it's a lot more complicated than that, my friend.
We use the parallels for Hawaii, right? Like, politicians are fucking racist. And look, like, I can talk about George Smathers. He thought by George Smathers, right?
Hey, wait. Okay. Well,
I have a point here.
Okay, everybody, quiet down. Look, if somebody says something you disagree with, it's gonna happen. We live in the United States of America, and recently people have disagreed a little bit. I don't know if you noticed. So, that's gonna happen. But I would like to hear the end of Joe Lewis's point.
If a representative, I'm just gonna say it just dead up. A representative in fucking Congress argued for Hawaii statehood, that perhaps we should become the United States of the Pacific, finally should become the United States of the Orient. That's what a fucking senator said when arguing about Hawaii statehood.
Yeah, but how long ago was that, Joe?
Yeah, when?
19. Oh, geez.
My point is, Joe.
No, but the thing is, these are here's the key thing.
And to make a racist point.
No. Here's the problem. Here's the problem.
50s, right?
If I agree, right? I agree that
so I can exactly expect somebody to say some racist bullshit like that.
CTV.
Right?
I agree. CTV. I agree that talking about racism is hard because Americans disagree about the history of race, but this is exactly why we need to be talking about these things within our governments.
You want to make everything about that, and it's not about that, right?
What did I just say?
I wasn't listening.
Do you agree? Hold on.
Oh my God.
CTV. I want to make this as clear as possible. I'm going to help you here, friend. I'm going to help you here because this is important. I'm going to say a statement. I want you to say if it's true or false. Talking about race is hard because Americans disagree on the history of race.
No, talking about race is hard because everybody on the left wants to be a fucking victim and they use that as that. I grew up in a time where Michael Jackson was singing a goddamn song about it doesn't matter if you're black or white. And that was my experience in life. So fuck you and your experience in life, right? Because I grew up in a time where most of the people had fucking gotten past that whole idea. And so because it becomes a Democrat talking point today, right? Because that motherfucker on the screen right there, President Barack Obama in the Trayvon Martin case decided that he was going to go ahead and make it completely about race. And that's what started the whole fucking conversation.
God, that was just beautiful.
That's what started all of
that just
the office of the president.
I can't believe I have to. I can't believe I actually have to sit here.
People, right?
The reality.
No, but here's the thing, right?
Jangles. Oh, fuck, I'll do it for you.
Thing kept going, and that's where you're hung up on it now, and it's really frustrating.
Didn't you just prove the point?
You're not even getting it, dude. Right? Like
no,
that's been
CTV. I think you literally just proved the point because you and Joe don't agree on the history of race in this country. And that was his point, was that like the reason why race is so difficult to talk about is because you don't agree on racial history inside the United States of America.
It's not like I don't understand it because I do, but when
you don't agree.
Though.
No, he's saying no. Critical, like he always critical is saying it gets politicized. And critical, I love you, but sometimes you say shit and you need to minimize it. He's saying that race has become politicized. That's what he's saying.
It was always politicized.
It's always like
which is so can we agree so is race how do I say this? I'm gonna say another statement. Race has been politicized in America.
Yes, of course.
So
Everything
with
is-
that, then, would you then agree that Puerto Rico statehood could potentially be a complicated issue because of that fact?
No. I don't think it has anything to do
How
with
is that
race.
not
Joe.
Do we speak for
complicated?
all white people on this panel?
I'm not white. I'm Native. See, and that's
No, but
dude,
so
like,
that was
I'm
a bad,
Native
that was a bad
American. My
point.
father was born on a
Yeah.
reservation. That's why I don't like talking about because everybody, when
Yeah.
it comes to race, they see a skin color and they assume it. I'm not fucking white.
Right.
Okay.
So, but my point is like, so I'm going to censor this because the logic that I did in that last one was a little bit poor. So I'm going to censor it a little bit more. Right. The biggest issue with Puerto Rican statehood, and this is why it's really complicated, is one of the reasons why it's complicated, right, is because every single time they try this thing, it continues to get blocked by a very specific type of politician with a very specific type of rhetoric. And it always comes to this level of xenophobic fear or fear of Latinos.
But
And-
Joe, you can point to the statement.
Are you fucking kidding
with
me,
Hawaii,
Joe?
no, stop. So Joe, you can point to the statement with Hawaii, and I agree that it's totally racist. Obviously, like Native Americans with the reservations, totally racist. We can point to the statements. Can you point to a statement in the modern day that's equivalent to that? That's my point when it comes to
Sure.
when you okay.
I
I, mean,
can-
where you can
I'll put up
point
a
out
clip.
that they're bringing up race as the main issue. Now, I mean, that's
Yeah,
my
give
point.
me-
Is I
give me
haven't
the-
seen any
yeah.
politician go out there and say, "Oh, it's because they're of a different race." I haven't
Okay,
heard that.
Give me a beat. I
I
can
need
prep a
to
clip. Give me like
interject.
2 minutes.
Okay, and I'll interject in the meantime. Okay, so this is something that I bumped into as a Republican for a really long time. Was basically like I would be accused of like, oh well, you know, Republicans are racist and they don't give a fuck about black people, and I'm like, well, I'm a Republican and I give a fuck about black people. So very clearly, Republicans give a fuck about black people. But okay, but that's anecdote Andying. There's fucking you know, I don't speak for all Republicans, and there is a
Yeah,
portion
neither
of the
do I.
population that's racially motivated. So can we concede that there might be a subcomponent that's racial of this, even if it's 5%, 10%, 20% of the Puerto Rican state?
But he's talking about the government, though. He's talking about in the government. That was my point. Is I'm not seeing people come out in the government saying that's the reason. With Hawaii,
All right.
we can point to it and go, yeah, these were people that were saying certain things that were racialized. But I'm not seeing. You might, and here I'll give it to Joe. I'll say right away, yeah, you might be able to find one person, but that one person's not going to have enough power to stop statehood. You know, so I'm not seeing the type of pushback that you would have seen with someone like Hawaii.
Sure. All right. So
I
I
just
have
don't
a
want them to fuck up my flag. That's
and-
seriously it. Figure
and
out how
to
to
make
not
it-
fuck up my flag, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, to center it a little bit more, to center it a bit more, the behavior within all of politics is one of the problems. So I'm gonna play a piece of audio right now. It's a minute. This audio comes from Patrick Moynihan. It's 1967, and he's arguing about one of the problems with political discourse when talking to Republicans and Democrats. I'm going to be forewarned. This is a trigger warning. It does have use of some pretty charged language.
Wait, when you say charged language, is it anything TOS?
It uses the
Yes.
N-word once.
Yeah, you can't do it. It's
Ending
not.
with,
It's not.
ending with an
know.
O. It doesn't end with an R.
It's not worth it.
I
It ends
don't.
with the O.
I actually don't know if
Proper context.
It's my
It's proper
argument. My
context.
argument is to acknowledge that there is a racist culture within Congress that goes from the House of Representatives
I was
all
talking
the
about
way to the
modern day,
president.
Joe.
and
but,
you
I
know what,
mean,
Joe? If it was any other platform, I would be 100% on board with you playing the clip. It's just I don't know
So
if my channel will go bye-bye, and I just got partner,
Okay,
and I don't know what.
I have to.
here's how it
rules.
works.
Give me a
Here's how
second.
it
Give me a
works.
second. Give me a second.
Joe-
Give me a second. Give me a second.
Sure.
I'm having.
I can
I'm having.
change to something else.
I am having a conversation with Joe right now. So Joe, I want you to be able to play it. If it was anywhere else, I would have you play it. I just am a little. Can you quote it? Would it be possible for you to quote it?
Sure.
Okay,
The
thank you.
problem isn't the problem. What Patrick Moynihan is arguing here in this recording, that I'll put it in voice chat or something so that you guys can listen to it later.
Okay.
Got
Is
it.
that it's
Yeah,
not that politicians are openly racist. It's that they accept the racism. And what happens is in practice, when politicians are faced with racism and faced with the bigotry, sexism, homophobia within their party, they're not willing to call that out. Instead, they toe the line. So sure, you can have politicians who want statehood, but they're so afraid to call out their own constituents when they participate in racist things, such as the suppression of the Jones Act, such as basically just the entire situation with Hawaii. They're not afraid to approach that. So my biggest call to action is, like, how do we, I guess my question is, how do we get to a place where we can accept that there is racist activity within the House of Representatives, within the Senate, within the presidency, without it being some type of like weird side counter argument?
How is it always racism and one fucking side with you?
It's not.
It is.
We've talked for 3 hours, and this is the first situation they came up with.
You literally always say it's a Republican. Yeah, you don't. Earlier, you tried to throw in there that I didn't answer your question about the tax issue, and I did. I said with a voucher, i.e., if they come up with a universal number that can give all kids a choice, the same equal fucking financial choice, that was the answer. But you didn't want to hear it, and then you want to bring up racism on CTV.
Joe has every.
Mel, please, until I finish. So I'm going to steal man CTV's argument as well. You guys didn't hear as simple as he said it. Me and him were raised where you don't see fucking color. And when we say that, oh, you're a fucking racist. No, I see a man. Just because you're fucking black, I'm fucking bald. Dylan has a lot of great hair on his head. But we keep throwing skin color into this bullshit. And then you want to say it's a systematic wide system throughout everywhere. Well, guess what? Explain to me this then. Whenever I ask you the fucking question, why is Detroit and Chicago the way they are if fucking racism exists? Because those fucking communities have been ran by their own fucking supported local fucking people. And you want to tell me it's a Republican thing when Republicans haven't even touched Michigan or Detroit in fucking 60 years? Since 1964, per se? Since Lyndon Baines Johnson, the most racist motherfucker in the world, and I'm a native Texan? Since he passed the Civil Rights Act just to cover his ass and to get what he said, I'll have them, you know what, with the hard R, vote for me for the next, or vote for Democrats for the next 200 years? Man, give me your... You just always inject racism on everything, and you say it's a one-sided deal. I'm fucking tired of that.
Joe gets to respond to that. There's no way I don't let Joe respond to that.
American socialization, whether you believe it to be true or not, favors white people. Our brain does a very good job at compartmentalizing our biases and prejudice. The problem here is Americans have an incredibly difficult time coming to terms with this. So as much as an administration is, and it's so much so that an administration is willing to misrepresent, miscategorize, and just completely dehumanize entire movements dedicated to talking about these issues, what do you expect? And the biggest problem here is when we talk about representation, the biggest fear for Republicans is losing power. But when we're in a two-party winner takes all system, and one party, the Republicans, are so white supremacist adjacent and openly racist, how are we expecting anybody from any type of minority group to even look at Republicans? And then the Democrats are just like, well, what do you got to lose? Like, I want to see a world where there's more representation within the Republican Party, because maybe if Republicans participated a little bit more in saying like, hey, we've seen our racist past, we've seen our racist policies, and we're willing to acknowledge this and cast it out. But what we see in practice is that every chance they have, they don't do that.
Joe, did Trump get more of the black vote than any other Republican ever?
Look, how much of it did he get? Answer that question. How much of it did he get?
13%.
Is that a lot? Are you proud of that?
The highest ever.
We're talking about Puerto Rico. I'm so fucking
okay. So
Jangles. We're not slave masters like the Democratic Party.
No.
It's
but
fucking
redneck,
weird how you think
big...
that black people vote a certain way because they're being brainwashed.
Redneck. But,
hey, remember
when
Joe
you look
Biden
at it,
told you ain't black unless you're voting him. I mean, he
redneck,
said it.
But I want to be very honest with you about something.
No,
here,
fucking
friend.
slave masters. The Democratic Party has been slave masters since 1964, and they're the ones that started all this bullshit from the original. And yet you're still fucking voting.
I don't.
So do you want to know why the stats are a little bit higher?
Are we still doing hands?
I'm still doing hands, but I gotta let Joe respond to that. I mean, I think.
So listen. At the end of the day, right? Black men voted for Donald Trump. But here's a stat that's a little bit more uncomfortable. In 2016, black women who hold more of the electorate than black men voted overwhelmingly for Hillary Clinton. So much so that the demographic of black women who voted for Donald Trump wasn't even acknowledged as a statistic. So it's more advantageous for Donald Trump to cater to black women than it is to cater to black men. So even though he catered to black men and it bumped up just slightly, look, at the end of the day, a failing grade is a failing grade. So he can have, and look, ever since LBJ, I'll admit, representation within the black electorate is just overwhelmingly towards Democrats. But Democrats were the first ones to implement certain policies that actually showed some type of change. In practice, that was anti-black politics.
Brother,
but at the same
they
time,
did it all. They killed
but
you.
Right, but at the same time, there are structures that aren't willing to acknowledge the racism within their own party, and then instead of being like,
you're literally not getting it, dude. The first fucking black people at all that were involved with either party were Republicans. They were not even Democrats, right? So I'm so tired of listening to this bullshit.
That's why I'm not even talking. It's ridiculous.
But again, there's historical problems here, and if I agree that talking about race is difficult,
drugs, right? Kennedy,
if I agree,
Lyndon Johnson put it into place after Kennedy because Kennedy that was his legacy, right? So after they fucking killed him, right? Then they put this into place. Johnson said what RedNeQ already said that he said, right? So in the 70s, they put it into war on drugs, right? And their entire fucking, the whole fucking reason why, if you go to war on drugs, will tell you was that Inkelman, who was a fucking guy on the Nixon cabinet, said that they wanted to be able to disrupt the black community and the hippies, right? That's literally history. So you really need to get on board with the fact that the war on drugs is what did this fucking problem.
And why did they plant Planned Parenthoods in every fucking major city?
Black people.
God damn, it sounds like you all that stuff.
Okay. Joe, I know a lot of people want to talk, but this is all being thrown at Joe, and I'm not going to hand it to somebody else when Joe.
Joe didn't even answer my original question.
Loyal.
Why did you answer the gibberish?
Stop. Everybody shut up. I'm going to start permanently banning people from the Hippie Dippy Podcast. Okay, now, Loyal. There's you, there's Red, there's CTV, then there's Joe. That's 3v1. That's what's going on right now, right? Jangles jumped in a few points, but most of it was that. So it makes perfect sense that he wasn't able to answer all of the questions. So now I'm going to give Joe a period of time where nobody's going to talk or you're permanently banned from the Hippie Dippy Podcast, no exceptions. So once Joe finished talking, then I'm going to go down the list. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Is there any misconceptions, any problems with any of what I'm saying right now? Everybody understands. Okay. And I don't mean you're banned from, I mean you're done. Okay? Joe, please talk. You've got 1 minute.
Yeah. If I agree that talking about race is hard because Americans disagree about the history of race, I should have expected the conversation to go that way. So for that, I'm sorry. With that being said, however, we can get very emotional about this situation because there are immutable characteristics involved, right? Because when we talk about race, those are immutable characteristics. But we have to remember that things like colorblind racism is not acceptable. So saying that you can't, like, you don't see this thing because, like, I don't interpret race like that, I don't see color, that's just colorblind racism play. We see how toxic it is when we do it to our politicians, when we do it to our children, and we do it within education. So I guess I want to circle back to Puerto Rican statehood, and I also want to go back to LoyalLogic because I want to answer his question because I do think that he did pose a very good question, but I want him to ask it again so I can represent this properly.
Okay, I'm gonna ask it again. I have barely talked this entire time, so my question, because I was waiting for my question, Joe. Sure. I agree with the whole why. Totally agree. In the modern day, you're saying it's being held back. Your first thing you said was racism. My only question to that is who in the modern day is being racist towards Hawaii? When you answered, you gave a clip from 1966, but that wasn't the question I'm talking about modern day. So if you have an idea of who, that's fine, but they better hold enough political power to push back. That's all my point. Yeah. And that's why I was frustrated when you went to race, Joe. It wasn't that racism doesn't exist. Of course it does. Of course it does. I know it exists. But when you're going to say racism, I'm going to ask for the evidence and hopefully you have somebody.
Sure. Well, I can give you a policy.
Well, no, but Joe,
I'll give the reason why I'll explain why I want to give a policy, right? Because policies are inherently bipartisan in nature, because essentially you need both sides of the aisle to pass. But the thing is, it's not about the intent as to why somebody does something within politics. It's about the impact. So we can talk about maybe the impact of the Jones Act, because that is an example of anti-Latino Latinx politics. Because if you have a piece of legislation that's designed to redistribute aid in a singular area, Puerto Rico can't receive the aid in question, then how am I supposed to see otherwise that this is something that just disproportionately is targeting one group of individuals, and they all happen to be Puerto
Joe,
Rican?
I'm not
going to
argue. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not for the Jones Act. You know, so you're not going to get a pushback on that. But your point was, if you rewind it back, is that Congress is racism, and then it's like I get what you're saying about the policy, but you have to point to somebody that's like spewing the rhetoric like Hawaii. Like, that's my point, is I'm totally with it. If you point someone out, Joe, I'm gonna be like, fuck yeah, Joe, good. You pointed it out. Let's fucking vilify that person. But it's just like when you say, well, let's go to a policy, it's like, but I'm against that policy.
But here's the thing, LoyalLogic, right? Like, it's not about the individuals who do these racist things. That's a part of it, and I did mention that is a part of calling out those people, and that's incredibly important. However, when the structures facilitate this type of behavior, it makes it very hard to tackle these problems. For instance, Donald Trump with his immigration policies, or his foreign policy at large. We can talk about the dangers of Tom Cotton and Tom Cotton adjacent Republicans. We can talk about just like Trumpism and Trump Republicans, that weird type of but Joe, this has rhetoric for compliance. Yeah.
But Joe, but we're going. But Joe, we're starting with Puerto Rico, and my problem is with the discussion is you keep building on top of it.
We're moving down the list because we've got
there's good discussions to be had when you're talking about rhetoric of this, but we're talking about Puerto Rico. And that's where I'm trying to come with you. I'm trying to hold your hand and say, let's go down the Puerto Rico bridge and figure out who's being racist. But then when we get there, you're talking about other things that have nothing to do with Puerto Rico.
Sure. So let's concentrate it a little bit. Do you feel that Puerto Ricans are citizens? I mean, you might, again, of course, I'm not trying to lead you to that path, right? Like,
I'm totally, I mean, if they want to come and then we agree, yeah, of course, let's have them. And why not?
So as I mentioned in my opening statement, why does Puerto Rico seem to be caught up with the 14th Amendment?
Because, I mean, it's many factors, people there, people here, but I mean, you're saying it's racism, and all I'm asking is where's the racism coming from?
Joe, is it possible that you could think of that they actually have the rights, sort of like Texas? The joke is that us native Texas, I'm a native Texan from Texas. We feel that we can secede from any time. Don't you understand that the United States has allowed Puerto Rico to receive and be treated as a state without actually being a state until they so chose? And yet you're saying that's racist?
No, they chose, but it's up to Congress to act. So
that they've chose, now our Congress will say, yes, of course, because the Democrats are going to want those votes.
This is the fourth time, and I'll say it again just to make it as clear as possible. Puerto Rico, if they enter the Union, would be a swing state. It would not be under Democratic control.
Okay, CTV.
Are they going to do that?
Yeah, we're going
to this list.
Yeah, we're going to go down the list because we have 17 minutes left, and that's when the show's supposed to wrap up. So first on the line is Jangles.
I was actually just excited to talk about systemic racism and the indisputable evidence in support of it, but I guess that's off topic, and I recognize that. So I was just going to support Joe. I have so much research, so much data.
Okay, next we're going to go to Counter.
It's all Democrat too.
I'm going to talk past the point and just do systemic racism anyways. So RedNeQ, LoyalLogic, CTV, there's 167 hours in a week. We sleep a third of the time. There's plenty of hours in the day. I'm going to recommend you a very obscure YouTuber called CounterPoints, who has a video about Baltimore specifically that's phenomenal. And basically it goes through the historical examples of how nowadays we have laws that equally apply to all citizens of the United States, and we don't have open racism as much as we used to. And you're not going to have a politician stand up on a podium and say, I hate, Puerto Rico and I hate Puerto Ricans. But There's things that were set in motion 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 50 years ago that still fuck over people today. So
the
that's
Democrats are horrible.
Okay, but
keep saying Democrats.
Saying it's
They
just
were.
Democrats or
It's his
just
closing
Republicans is
statement. Everybody else,
bullshit.
shut up.
It's well, I don't know if this is a closing statement.
Yeah,
Well,
it's not
if
yet.
it is,
It's not yet. It's
if
not
it
yet.
is. But my point being that like
I appreciate the energy.
167 hours. You can watch the steelman position of the opposite side, and I think you'll find it compelling because there's really logical reasons why historical things that no longer apply today still fuck over people. And
I'm never going to argue against that point. You have a point that was hit when Joe said. He said it in a way like it's how people
want a
politicians
specific
today.
example.
No,
I gotta,
but no, because he said today politicians. He wasn't when the conversation started. He wasn't talking about the past. If he phrased it like you just did, I would say, "Oh yeah, you're right. There are policies," and that's why I was thrown back when Joe said that because I'm like, I'm not aware of any politicians. Yeah, because I obviously know. I know points that there's policies that still affect communities all over the country today. I mean, I think everybody here would agree that racist policies transcend people they passed their generation. They're dead, but those policies are still alive and well.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Jangles, don't get so fucking offended when you look at when I say the Democrats, because honestly, look at your history and look at what the Democrats passed. They were the most offensive laws that affected the fucking minority population of America because they were in fucking control.
Them. I guess you could just talk to them. But we live here in like fucking linear time. It's 2020, so I don't know why you're talking to people
by laws that Joe even stated.
How about like we talk about the policies of today? Which party is actually supporting the
Hello?
Which party is denying?
I just told you. You remember FDR and like laws even go that far still affect minorities today.
Exactly.
You know that, right?
So how stupid would you have to be to say that? Oh, I don't see color. I was raised that. Oh, we got rid of racism because they don't see color anymore.
Because I see color the same way. I see color the same way I see fucking hair on your head or not on your head. Well, it's just an attribute.
Well, that's great for you. Wouldn't it be great if I had like a systemic analysis that said that black people get like 28% less callbacks than white people in modern day America?
Yeah, because
Wouldn't it be cool if I had
white liberals are racist as fuck.
Well, I didn't read that in that meta-analysis.
Malcolm X told
maybe I
just we needed to know.
Have you read hang on for a second.
Okay.
Have you read Malcolm X?
Okay,
Malcolm X was a great man.
Yeah, Malcolm X,
he
hell
even
yeah.
told us.
Woohoo, cool. Yeah, he's great. Look, we're gonna go to Mel next.
Sure.
Oh Lord, I've been wanting to talk for so long. I don't even know what else to say at this point. I guess I'm just like really disappointed how we had, Joe, who is a black man, like say his piece about like why racism equal bad in America, and I had to watch several people basically just interrupt him, not listen, and like Dylan shouldn't have had to have intervened. I like how like I started this entire like Hippie Dippy basically saying like we need to listen to each other, especially listen to people that are most affected by those fucking systems. And a bunch of you like fucking failed Joe in this room, and you should be real fucking disappointed.
Go back, watch the VOD. I didn't. I was sitting here and listening the entire time.
All right. Well, I don't really give a shit. The point is people did it, and it shouldn't have fucking happened.
So much
like,
right?
And I'm gonna push past the point too. Like, systemic racism is fucking real. Like, almost the majority of trans people that fucking get murdered in this country are black and brown. That's someone like me. I am the majority of the people that fucking die in this country systemically, institutionally. So to sit here and listen to a bunch of white men basically say and basically yes, I will gladly
please let Mel finish.
I just asked for the link so I can learn. That's all. I was being honest in good faith. That's
it. Didn't sound like fucking good faith. Like why can't you?
Because I said
no, shut the fuck up. Why is my absolute existence a fucking statistic? Why do I have to bring up every single name of every single fucking person that has died due to all this bullshit in order to satisfy that the reason why like our lives are hard is because of the shit that Joe's talked about? Like, I don't know why there needs to be
we all have oppressions. We all have our own things.
What do you mean we all have oppressions? I basically no, I don't. You know what? I still get dead named in fucking chat, dude. I still get people basically asking like, is that a dude? Like that shit fucking like I shouldn't have to deal with that shit. But I deal with that shit all the fucking time. It's not an oppression. It's a fucking hard, brutal.
Everybody on this panel is a victim of something.
Place in society. So don't call it this. We all have oppressions because I recognize that.
Melanie,
white working class people have oppressions.
I just got one simple question for you. why do you let what anybody else thinks bother you? Because what I'm going to tell you is fuck what anybody else thinks.
That's not how my life is.
Awesome.
That's not how my life is, buddy. No, this is the most milquetoast bullshit apologist shit I've ever heard. There was no such thing as telling a fucking trans person, oh, well, you should just say fuck the haters. There are people in this country that are literally
beat up on the street.
There are
right?
literally
like,
people in this country that start a conspiracy theory that basically say we're the ones that are like cultural Bolshevism and Marxism, all that Jordan Peterson transphobic shit. Yeah, no, I don't get a choice. I don't get to basically fuck the haters, dude. I don't get that choice. I get to walk outside and I don't know if something bad is going to happen to me or not. That fate has not been determined.
Right. And any other narrative that has been painted by any other group for any other group that is identified on this particular panel or any panel that would ever be had in life has some type of negative rhetoric behind it, right? And everybody has to at the same time go, fuck all that bullshit. That ain't me. Right?
I know that's not how people exist though. Like you're a white dude. Like you don't get to say
he's not white.
We are
Melanie thinks that I'm white too, so that's
Okay, so
whatever, fine. Whiteness, white passing. Just get out here, dude.
Fucking shit.
Oh, now I'm the racist. All right.
Okay,
cool.
We're done. We're done. Hippie Dippy Podcast is over. There's no outro. There's no ending statements. It's over. We're done. I'm not raiding anybody. It's over. Everybody go home. I didn't like today.